Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Nautical Explosion. 5 Elders, how many divisions do you have? Chapter 1. Not long ago, Blackbeard gave the defeated Fire Fist Ace as a gift to Marine headquarters. A war in Blackbeard's plot is about to begin. The world government gets the trump card of Fire Fist Ace. And consider that Whitebeard is also getting older. It is a good time to use him to kill chickens and intimidate monkeys and warn the entire era of sea thieves. So the news about the public execution of Fire Fist Ace was quickly released. Throughout the sea, all forces stirred. The Whitebeard pirates are fierce, and the Marine headquarters has gathered the world's best Marine and is waiting for it. Many well-known Vice Admiral and Admiral also gradually arrived at the Marine headquarters. In Marshal Sengoku's expectations, this war, unsurprisingly, would be a victory for their Marine headquarters. It just depends on how much it costs. But at the moment, Marshal Sengoku frowned, but the source was not the Whitebeard pirates. Instead, it was from East Blue, who looked at the intelligence in front of him, his face full of solemnity, as the intelligence true. Quote, "It's true, at present, we Marine can no longer get close to the waters of the Kingdom of Goa. Every time we get close, we will be discovered in advance. If we don't heed the warning, continue to move forward, the warship will be sunk." Got it, go call Vice Admiral Garb. Marshal Sengoku rubbed his temples in distress. This happened at a juncture. Before that, no one at their Marine headquarters noticed it. Simply unforgivable and unbelievable. That could be hundreds of thousands of trained soldiers, or even more. Eating and drinking Lazar, actions, purpose. No matter how you look at it, it's impossible to hide it from their eyes and ears at Marine headquarters. But the truth is so outrageous. They appeared as if out of thin air, without any signs and trajectories. In a very short time, he took the entire kingdom of Goya. The king and almost all the nobles of the country were executed. Its methods can be called extremely bad and crazy. And they only now know the situation. This is not like the handiwork of the Revolutionary Army. But apart from the Revolutionary Army, who can secretly mobilize such a huge number of troops? Now Marshal Sengoku can only try to understand the situation from Vice Admiral Garp. After all, it was his hometown, and Garp went back once or twice a year. Perhaps some clues were detected earlier. Soon Vice Admiral Garp arrived. However, the recent Garp has lost its former cheerfulness. Because Ace is his grandson, his position tells him he shouldn't even have mixed it in. After all, the strength of the Marine headquarters, without him, should be enough to deal with the Whitebeard pirate group. But he couldn't be indifferent. In any case, he should have witnessed the outcome of this event with his own eyes. "Sengoku, what's the matter with me?" Garp looked at his best friend with a smile. Seeing this, Sengoku sighed slightly inwardly. This dear friend of his, no matter what happens, can always laugh. Even the smile at the moment is so bitter. But it still proved that he was a strong man. But executing Ace was not just his Sengoku's idea. It is the will of the world government. This trump card is in hand, they can't give it up. And from the standpoint, they are not wrong. Sengoku handed Garp the information he had just received and added a few words on the side. The more Garp listened, the more frightened he became, and then said very decisively, "This is absolutely impossible. Even if all the resources of the Kingdom of Goya are exhausted, it is impossible to support an army of hundreds of thousands, or even millions, alone. Sengoku, you have no problem with this intelligence." Quote. Hear Garp say that. Sengoku's brows furrowed even tighter. He knew Garp would never lie to himself about it. The resources of the entire kingdom are not enough. So how did this force come about? Does the rest of East Blue have the capability? They also seem to have some kind of superb technology, a very long-range, powerful shell that has sunk several of our surveillance ships, and the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral is currently presiding over the big picture at East Blue. Quote, "No way, since Roger's death 20 years ago, the world government swept away East Blue, but many of the military forces of countries with strong forces have been co-opted. Then this is strange, but at this time, a legion of unknown origin appeared, and the combat power is extremely high." Bang! At this time, the door was urgently pushed open by an intelligence officer. Sengoku's face darkened, but he was quickly attracted by the news he reported. "Report Marshal, emergency, just now we lost contact with the fleet of East Blue." Quote, "How come? Isn't Vice Admiral in East Blue?" No matter what happens, his strength is enough to send us the last message, how to say that if you lose contact, you will lose contact. Sengoku and Garp's faces changed slightly. Chi-Chi realized that this matter was probably much more complicated than they thought. Brew brew blue. Then the phone bug in Marshal Sengoku's office suddenly rang. Sengoku and Garp looked subconsciously. Sengoku picked up the phone bug. A flat and young voice soon came from the opposite side, Sengoku of Buddha. Quote. Hearing this call, Sengoku's eyes suddenly narrowed. Be able to dial your own office phone directly. There are only a very small number of Rear Admiral generals and officers above Vice Admiral. But this, how is it like not knowing yourself? Or rather, not sure. Coupled with the fact that East Blue had just lost contact, Sengoku instantly had a bad premonition. But still respond truthfully, I am. And this bad premonition came true the next moment, I am Allied Commander Gerard. Ren, this is the phone bug of Vice Admiral. Hearing this, Sengoku and Garp were a little uneasy. Marine Vice Admiral, as the backbone of Marine. It turned out to be in East Blue, the weakest sea, was captured. And the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral even leaked the phone bug number of Marshal Sengoku. The two were not very convinced. The Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral was taught by them. It is impossible to be a person who is greedy for life and afraid of death. Could it be controlled by someone with special abilities? A handsome young man sat on the lap of a beautiful girl with pale blonde hair and a maid outfit. Dragging the phone worm with one hand, the other hand wandering over the girl. Pure face suddenly flushed. Not long ago, their island became a dependency of this youth. She was chosen as secretary because of her erudition. She walked out of the island and followed him, seeing the twisted aristocratic culture of the Kingdom of Goa. Then the 1,000-year-old Kingdom of Goa completely collapsed under his plan. That godlike means made Kaya can't help but worship. Such a crazy, rational man is simply too deadly for a good girl like her. She didn't even mind if something actually happened. As for Usopp, it is naturally a precious person for Kaya, but that kind of affection is more like family affection. He's like an older brother. And this man satisfies all her fantasies about her other half. You are the commander of that army of the Kingdom of Goa? Sengoku asked quickly. Yes. What the hell do you want to do? Who does it work for? Sengoku asked two questions in quick succession. No matter how Ren answered, he had a way to cope. It would be nice to have some intelligence. I want to reshape the world, and I call you this time to ask if you have this will, and over the years, the compromise of justice must have made you very uncomfortable. This voice is young, but it gives Sengoku a sudden illusion. As if this young man, in terms of mental age, was not younger than them. And in a simple sentence, it pokes directly into Sengoku's heart. Over the years, in order for Marine to carry out justice, in order to obtain resources from above, he even condoned slave auctions and all kinds of injustices. But some things, as Marshal Marine, had to compromise, had to be treated as if they were not seen. It's just that this person is also too crazy. As soon as you open your mouth, you want to subvert the world. He knows what that means. Perhaps, this is a madman who does not know the height of the sky. Or is it an ignorant madman who has a little strength and thinks that he is invincible in the world? Do you think that taking the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral feels like it can represent the whole of Marine? And this boldness is also amazing. This statement is obviously digging Marshal Sengoku to go. Dig into the corners of the world government. Sengoku and Garp were silent for a moment. This kind of madman with a little strength is quite difficult to deal with. Is Vice Admiral still alive? But Sengoku kept talking. Still alive. Well, the silence is a little longer, that is, there may be someone else in your office. Is it Vice Admiral Garp? Quote. This. Sengoku Garp was suddenly shocked. This guy, his mind is so delicate. That's all you can guess. It seems that yes, Vice Admiral Garp, Ace is going to be executed. If there is no accident, he will die. Can you really accept it? The justice of the world government is not in line with your values. Join us and we will usher in a whole new world. Ren's tone remained calm. It's like an ancient well that doesn't make waves, but it's so calm. Enough to make Sengoku and Garp look high. Just words, too crazy and whimsical. Do you think you can make it? No, at least not now. this is just to say hello to you in advance. If you are willing to join, it can reduce a lot of unnecessary casualties in the future. Don't you think you're too whimsical? Young people don't think that you can do whatever you want with a little strength. You really killed all the royal families and nobles of the kingdom of Goya? Sengoku asked coldly. If that's true, they can't sit idly by. Not all of them. Sengoku and Garp breathed a sigh of relief when they heard this. But Ren's next sentence made their faces darken. There are still 2 noble families left. Quote, "You fool, butcher." Marshal Sengoku couldn't help but scold. That's a royal family, O king of a nation and all nobles. Kill them all. That's a big problem. If it weren't for the imminent war with the Whitebeard pirates, this will definitely set off a huge storm in the world. The kingdom of Goya is not a nameless country. One of the most beautiful countries in East Blue, celestial dragons are frequented. It is also the ancestral land of a family of celestial dragons. Only later they all moved to the Holy Land. There are still 2 families left. What is the difference between that and killing them all? Twisted and rotten society, without the slightest humanity, what do you keep them? As for who I play for, what I have to say is for a dead man. This time just to inform you, I hope that when the choice comes, you are mentally prepared. The next kingdom is Dressrosa. Goodbye. Ren finished. Without giving Sengoku and Garp time to continue their questioning, they hung up the phone. It looks like a paranoid and crazy and arrogant leader. I'm afraid the harm will not be small in the future, but now that the war with the Whitebeard pirates is imminent, this matter is put on hold for the time being. After the war, deal with it. It's not the first time Sengoku has met such a person. On the sea, there are all kinds of freaks. Garp responded, but he always felt that something was wrong. If this man is a paranoid, a madman, judging by his words and goals. It is indeed the correct assessment, but why? His tone was so calm. It's so calm that Garp feels a little uneasy. But even if there are many soldiers and horses, at most, it is the strength of a medium-level country. Want to challenge the world government? It's far from it. He said the next kingdom is Dressrosa. Do we need to remind me? No need. If you really go to trouble Brother Ming, maybe we don't need to intervene, but East Blue still has to send someone to negotiate, hoping to get the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral and them back safely. Garp didn't say much. After all, at the moment, it was indeed Whitebeard's matter that was more important. Kingdom of Goya. If at the moment someone looks down on the country from above, you will definitely be scared by this scene in front of you and your scalp will be numb. I saw the entire kingdom of Goya, full of mountains, on every street, on every mountain range, and in every clearing. All filled with locust-like soldiers. And tanks, planes, giant artillery, missiles, airboats. Bases, tank factories, power plants, barracks, replication centers. Many are built in large forests where non-deterministic terminus are located. Under a tower, Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral and a group of Marines stand below. A stream of energy light flowed from the spire to their brains, probing all secrets and controlling them. This is the Mind Control Center, which functions as the name suggests. From the ground to the sky, densely packed with people and weapons and equipment. Even the roof of the building was full of heavily armed soldiers. Enough to drive the dense fearful person directly crazy. Because this is not 230,000 troops, but a full 1.2 million. A terrifying number. In the entire pirate world of countries, only a very small number of countries can have this force. Satellite search for Dressrosa. Map on. Chrono device ready. Attack Dressrosa. Yes sir. The response of the mountain and tsunami sounded, shaking the entire kingdom. Residents are at home, and today, it is lockdown day. The number of those soldiers was so large that they were terrified in their hearts. At least a week ago, when Ren first came to this kingdom. 10 times more, which is completely beyond their comprehension. This seems to be something that only gods can do. Ren sits on the main base and gives orders to fight. The entire kingdom of Goya has long lost the beauty of the past. Only arsenals and military bases all over the ground remained. Some arsenals are densely clustered together, with a strong punk style. With Ren order, many devices began to activate. Don't look at the fact that Ren has a lot of troops and weapons right now. But here, the upper limit has been reached. Ren must find the next kingdom and collect soul ore in order to continue to expand the production of classes and weapons. Ren travels to the world of pirates for 3 years. Obtained an upgraded red alert system. Relying on this system, Ren is able to produce a variety of soldiers and weapons. These GIs don't look the same, but they are absolutely loyal to Ren. The initial stage of development is the hardest. Because of the island where Ren was located in the beginning, there are not particularly many soul ores. Slow development. And with soul ore, there is money. Only if you have money can you buy a variety of weapons and equipment in the Red Police system. And this soul ore is an ore that is invisible to the naked eye. Only the soul mining vehicle can detect it. In systematic terms, it is related to the mental state of one's own awakening at that time. The abundance of soul ore is closely related to the mood swings of the human beings who live on this island. To put it simply, if an island is ordinary and uneventful, there are few soul ores. If an island is chaotic and people's emotions fluctuate greatly, such as death, resentment, hatred, gratitude and other emotions are intense, then there are more soul ores. They settle deep beneath the islands. The kingdom of Goya was the first kingdom that Ren had been planning for a long time. On the island he crossed, he accumulated for 3 years before he grew to 400,000 soldiers and a considerable number of submarines, tanks, aircraft and artillery. 400,000 sounds like a lot, but this is not the ordinary world. In the world of pirates, there are many strong people, if it is the most ordinary mobilizer. These 400,000 may not even be able to consume a marine admiral. This is only possible unless Ren personally directs the arrangement. Akainu's meteor volcano, Aokiji's ice age, Kizaru's 8-foot Jontomo are all wide-ranging lethal moves. Even if there are tanks, planes and cannons, face Logia's abilities. Whether it will work is unknown. Now Ren does not have much seastone ore in his hands, and there is a threat to those with natural abilities but it is not particularly large. So Ren didn't take a step too far. Countries that did not choose Grand Line. Instead, he chose the Kingdom of Goa. In addition to convenience and proximity, it is the commoners and royal families of this country. The pursuit of fame and fortune is crazy, even the king. That's how they educate future generations. Completely caught in a strange circle of power. It makes people shudder. Once they could even ignite the terminal of non-deterministic objects for human survival, and countless dead people died. As you can imagine, many of them have lost their humanity and are almost sick. And this kind of person is what Ren hates the most. He was the only person in the world who had been good to him. It is to die at the hands of such a powerful person. But in a place like the Kingdom of Goya, it is destined that there will be no less soul ore. Ren pinpoints the days when Garp wasn't in East Blue. Launch an attack on the Kingdom of Goya and bloodily suppress all the nobles who resist. Although the Kingdom of Goya is not famous, the army is also tens of thousands. But the gap between the two is too large. Ren has planes, cannons, missiles, submarine cannons, tanks, 400,000 soldiers. They don't have Marine Admiral to sit in, what to resist? Although there are not many missile vehicles now, the power is still incomparable to the firepower of this kingdom. After taking the Kingdom of Goa, Ren immediately blocked the news and occupied the development. The second base, completely completed in a week, quickly pulled up 50 barracks, 20 tank factories, 5 air commands, shipyards, radars. The whole 9 yards. The Kingdom of Goya was completely built into a modern military powerhouse. The soul ore accumulated by the Goya kingdom over the years did not disappoint Ren, there were a lot of them. Ren 400,000 squad directly exploded to 1.2 million. At this point, Ren finally had the minimum qualifications to declare war on the entire world. Now the number of people has almost filled the main streets of the entire Goya kingdom and the ships in the outer seas. Fortunately, the soldiers produced by these arsenals do not need to sleep and eat, and are absolutely loyal. Otherwise, logistics alone will be difficult to solve. But now the soul ore of the Goya kingdom has been mined. Ren couldn't stop because from the day he made this decision, there was no way back. How tempting it sounds to change the world and make it work according to its own will. You once said that it is not my incompetence that is wrong, but the world, then, subvert the world, start today. I will create my ideal world, Ren said faintly as he looked at the sky. And Kaya saw a touch of sadness in this man's eyes. Allied Commander. Gerard. Ren. Money, Soul Ore, 5 million. Command Ability. Full level. Physical Ability. Perfect Fit X Gene Biochemical Fluid, Combat Power Evaluation S Class. Total Buildings. 166 buildings, Main Base 2, Barracks 66, Tank Factory 30, Nuclear Power Plant 10, Laboratory 5. Total Strength. 1.2 million. 980,000 mobilized soldiers, magnetic storm infantry, biochemical soldiers, mad orcs, self-detonators, snipers, etc. totaling 220,000. Soldier stars. 10,000 for 3 stars, 90,000 for 2 stars, and 1.1 million for 1 star. The higher the star rating, the stronger the soldier's vitality and combat effectiveness. Vehicles. 10,000 including Soul Mining Vehicle, Grizzly Tank, Light Prism Tank, Apocalypse Tank, V3 Rocket Launcher. Ships. 2,000 including cruisers, destroyers, gunboats, motherships. Aircraft. 820 including helicopters, bombers, transport aircraft. Other buildings. 2,000 fences, pillboxes, sentry, Patriot rockets. Ren took a look at what she had now. 2 main bases, one in the Kingdom of Goa and one in the Kingdom of Aniv, the country where Ren had just crossed over. This is also to prevent the war in the Goya Kingdom from going well. They have somewhere to retreat. But I did not expect that the resistance of the Goyawan Kingdom was so small. There is nothing to say about the strength of the troops, just have money. The problem is that Ren is running out of soul ore now. With a balance of 5 million, a mobilized soldier costs 200 yuan, and now the money is only enough to buy 25,000 mobilized soldiers. That's too little, so scaling is the most impatient thing right now. And the soldier originally only had 3 levels, no star, 1 star and 3 stars. But for the sake of statistics, Ren uniformly divides it into better counted 1 star, 2 star, and 3 star stars. The 3-star soldiers are extremely powerful, and each of them carries unlimited bullets, as if carrying a chrono magazine. The basis for leveling up is simple, you can level up by destroying buildings or killing enemies. At present, these 10,000 3-star soldiers have grown up in the killing of these 2 kingdoms. Also Ren trump card. These soldiers have a wealth of personal feelings, which is why they deserve to be entrusted by Ren to complete various jobs, such as espionage, sitting in the aviation command center, and so on. And Ren's chosen place is actually the Summit War. Because a big war is about to begin, so many strong people fighting, emotional fluctuations must be very large. The sole emotional products of life and death will be very intense, and it is destined that there will be a lot of soul ores. This kind of island that has undergone a recent emotional change is a treasure. After a long time, the mood does not last, and the soul ore will pass. If you can build another main base at the marine headquarters, or use the soul ore vehicle for mining, Ren will definitely get rich overnight, and his strength will definitely skyrocket. But even if you have 1 million modern troops, for 1 or 2 admirals, 100,000 elites are fine. If you play against Admiral, Garp Sengoku, maybe Whitebeard, or even the people of the world government, that's a bit inadequate. Ren had to prepare for the worst against everyone. So Ren feels that it is not enough. The high-end combat power of this world is extremely terrifying. Even a nuclear bombardment of a superweapon may not be able to kill with 1 shot. Intensive missile attacks and the like may be effective, but they are still not robust enough. Even if you know their abilities, it is difficult to defend them all. Whitebeard could have caused himself a lot of damage in a single tsunami. But total destruction was impossible because Ren had 3 armies. And they all know their abilities, and they can prevent them somewhat. But if you want to become the strongest and subvert the world, this 1 million troops is still not enough. After all, there are relatively few 3-star soldiers and other biochemical troops, super troops. The reason is still poverty. And Dressrosa is a bustling country full of joy and flowers. But in reality, there is a deep darkness. Many were turned into toys and worked day and night to death. This kingdom must have accumulated a larger amount of soul ore than the kingdom of Goa. Now there is only 7 warlords of the sea Doflamingo, and it is impossible to stop yourself. Ren ordered, the Aviation Command Center, control the satellites launched into the sky and the base radar. Scanning the entire Grand Line, I found Dressrosa. The islands on the map certainly cannot escape the scanning and positioning of satellite radar. Then countless soldiers wearing space suits gathered next to the half-circular building, the chrono-teleportation device. They carried something like a Spitfire in their hands, but instead of flames, they spewed out force field shields. The force field shield envelops what is to be teleported, protects, and activates the chronospace device. They were able to teleport to Dressrosa. Dressrosa, the wind is calm, and many pirate ships choose to rest on this island for a while. There are Doflamingo's subordinates in ports throughout the kingdom. They are responsible for collecting port parking fees. At the same time, it is also the eyeliner of Mingo who oversees the entire kingdom. A bald pirate drinks wine and eats meat in a small building near the port, looking out at the coastline, and two fat women are waiting around. He was a small boss during the years that Mingo became king of the Dressrosa kingdom. His status also rose with the tide. Today is another beautiful one. Crouch. Quote. The bald pirate suddenly rose from his chair, startling the two women next to him. His whole person looked at the direction of the sea, extremely frightened, more terrifying than seeing a ghost. He rubbed his eyes again in disbelief, and as a result, the ships on the sea instantly increased again and were densely packed. Covered the whole sea. Young master, it's not good. No, it's not good. We Dressrosa are surrounded by unknown forces. Quote. When Mingay, who was in the palace, heard this report, he was visibly stunned. What a joke, Dressrosa is our territory, who can surround us? It's not Mingo who is confident, and that should be the truth. All the soldiers of the entire Dressrosa after that change 8 years ago. All allegiance to yourself, plus Violet's ability to stare at the fruit. A large fleet wants to get close to Tokushima and will be discovered at once. Dressrosa's local power is his largest. How can one's own kingdom be surrounded by people? As soon as many people approached slightly, Mingay immediately knew. And in both black and white, there are people covering, and there are guys who have the strength to do it to themselves. Don't dare to act rashly at the moment. Dark side, who doesn't know that 4 Emperors Kaido is their backer? On the White Way, the world government ties are closely tied to his former celestial dragons. In addition, the recent announcement by Marine Headquarters that it will publicly execute Ace, who will come to trouble themselves with nothing. Young lord, it's true, and there are already a lot of people inside Dressrosa. We don't know how they appeared. Oh my god. So much. Ah, the voice of the phone bug, accompanied by the sound of gunshots, stopped abruptly. Mingo frowned, but not arrogant. Dover, what's going on? Diamante, one of the top cadres, dressed like an Indorian, asked. The spies reported that we were surrounded. Mingay grinned. Stepping on the lines intertwined in the void, slowly rising towards the sky, intending to see which guy who did not open his eyes dared to come to him for trouble. Ha, ha ha ha, how can there be such a ridiculous thing? It is estimated that there are guys who do not open their eyes. There are a few more. Reporter, exaggerate things. What a bunch of cowards, taunted Diamante. But then a voice suddenly sounded in the sky. Don Quixote, is Doflamingo there? Quote. Ha, Brother Ming came to the commanding height of the palace heights and looked up. The whole person suddenly seemed to be frozen by cold ice. Stand still. Even if Brother Ming has experienced many big battles in the past few decades. Even the destruction of several kingdoms has been surrounded by the marine fleet. I also often went to Wano-kuni and met Kaido's troops. But he swore that he had never seen such a dense, such outrageous legion. Even because of the shock, cold sweat began to flow from his forehead. How is that possible? Where did this legion come from? Quote. As far as the eye can see, the entire Dressrosa street is large and small. A dense army appeared, and in the entire kingdom, in all directions, like a tide, the waves were advancing towards the heights. It's like stars in the sky. The men were all armed, carrying guns, and marching behind metal chariots. The tanks pressed the road forward, and the dense forces made Doflamingo's subordinates not even dare to resist. Because there are so many. It's scary. The number reaches a certain level, which is enough to shock people. There are also many iron birds flying from the coastline in the sky. Thousands of them. What's even scarier is that the entire Dressrosa coastline, not a single place is missing. Surrounded by warships made of steel. 3 floors inside, 3 floors outside. there are at least thousands of ships in this visual inspection. How many soldiers are there? 500,000, million, no. I'm afraid there are more than 1,000,000, and this number has exceeded the entire population of Dressrosa. It's terrifying. Impossible. Even the Marine headquarters can't move so many large ships in an instant. What the hell is going on? Brother Ming was stunned, even though his strength was amazing. I was also shocked. Such a force. I want to assemble in a short time. Unless it's the world government at all costs. It may be possible to bring together most of the forces of all departments in the world. But under normal circumstances, it is impossible to gather the forces of the entire department. That means giving up the territory that governs. So what's going on with everything in front of you? And the equipment looks very different from Marine and the rest of the world government. Dover, what's wrong? What the? Seeing that Mingo was stunned, Diamante couldn't help but bounce up the building, and the result was a look. My heart almost went into a sudden arrest. Oh, my God, how in the sky and the sea, there are soldiers everywhere. It was as if the black clouds on all sides were rushing towards the Royal Highlands. Everywhere they passed, all the pirates and civilians were trembling with fright, and they quickly fled back to the house to hide. Report to the commander. Doflamingo found, missile lock, rocket lock, bomber ready. Signal jammer on. Attack, quote. Attack, first try long-range firepower to see if this strength is infinitely close to the Marine Admiral level. Ren on board the coastal warship gave the order. He has to test his army himself, and once he takes Dressrosa, the main base needs his personal authorization to be established. Received. The battle begins. The convoy arrives at the designated position. Please do not easily leave the mothership to risk. An officer reported expressionlessly. Then Mingay, who was on the high ground, changed his face slightly when he saw so many soldiers. His observation hockey is on. At this moment, he noticed that at least 1,000 shells were aimed precisely at him. How is it possible? How could the guns of warships hit so far and with such precision, all aimed at the heights? Wall of cobwebs. Brother Ming's face changed drastically, and he didn't have time to think about it. Thousands of lines burst out of his palm, forming a huge spider-white defensive web. Boom. The missiles were intercepted, blowing up terrifying waves of flames. Something is wrong with this shell. How is it so much stronger than the artillery fire of Marine's top warships? Arm. As soon as Brother Ming touched these shells, my heart was suddenly terrified. So much, and the firepower is still so fierce. You can't bear it in a hurry. The spider web was directly blown to pieces. He can only use armament hockey to protect himself. Stop. If there is anything, we can talk about it first. Brother Ming shouted directly at this group of troops. Brother Ming had to instigate. This is inexplicable. How can he provoke such a strong army? The quantity is still so terrible. If it weren't for the world government, he wouldn't have thought of anyone in this world who had such strength. Don't talk about it. Fight first. This is a good opportunity to test the power of various weapons. I hope he can resist for a while. Ren ordered directly to the unit commanders. 6 as demon fruit power awesome. Crush them. Many flying fish-like boats hang high in the sky. The front end is like a hideous beast, huge and incomparable, and the carrying capacity is extraordinary. This is the Kirov airship, a heavy bombing aircraft, with the title of Shinigami in the air. Once the king of the air, it is more powerful and dangerous than ordinary bombers, and its cruising and bomb load are top-notch. Even tanks can fit these in. But the danger is high. Once there is any spark inside, and it is hit, it is very likely that the whole explosion will occur. That's why a certain war gradually withdrew from the stage. Inside the empty ship, in the bridge command room, Ren sat in the main command position, quietly looking at the screen, where Doflamingo and the other cadres were located with a somewhat hideous and resentful face. Brother Ren, eat fruit. Dressed in a maid outfit, Kaya handed the peeled grapes to Ren. Good. Well, worthy of the 7 warlords of the sea, the first wave of V3 missiles was easily defended. To get the ground tanks out on the ground, I had to set up prism towers in several important ports in Dressrosa to prevent them from escaping. Although one light prism requires 1,500 soul ore, it was expensive to have a bevel that covered the entire Dressrosa coastline and harbor. But if you let Mingay run, the trouble will be even greater. Since you have decided to become an enemy, you must crush him to the end. The laser emitted by the prism is hugely powerful. Ren has tested it to penetrate thick steel plates and sharp hills directly. Collecting Doflamingo's strength allows Ren to further judge the strength of Marine Admiral. Received. The 1st to 10th tank squads are out of line. Advance. Grizzly tank series, about 200 units from all sides. Everywhere you pass, everything is crushed into ruins. Each tank was followed by a large number of infantry. But all are 1-star mobilizers. Samsung soldiers, all very precious. It is usually dispatched at the moment of deciding the winner. And they have all escalated to the end. Opportunities need to be given to 1-star soldiers. Soldiers can level up by killing and destroying enemy buildings. Stop them. Seeing this, Diamante quickly ordered his subordinates to fight back against these steel monsters. It's useless to shoot them, what to do? Tom ho ho. Mingo had not many of his men, and they reacted as soon as Rosa was attacked. Looking at the enemies all over the mountains, they were terrified, but they did not dare not fight back. Otherwise, Diamante and the young master's means are not vegetarian. It can only be forced on the scalp. It's just that their guns are too backward against Ren modern tank troops. It's like paper paste. The tank group roared, and the cannonballs on the ground gushed out and landed in the crowd, and the screams suddenly resounded in the 4 wilds. If the forces are opposed, there are various tanks as the main offensive force. Mingi's subordinates were immediately swept away, and blood and broken limbs and flesh were suddenly spilled all over the streets. Where the hell did these guys come from? These weapons are more powerful than those mechanized troops in Kaido. Could it be that the world government wants to erase us? Diamante was in disbelief. Pong. As soon as his voice fell, a subordinate beside him who he valued was immediately hit directly by an incendiary shell. But this subordinate's physique is far beyond ordinary people, and after being hit, the whole person was covered by explosive flames, but he was not dead yet. But the flames on his body kept burning. Ah, water! He screamed, trying to extinguish the flames on his body by various means, but it was useless. White phosphorus incendiary bombs cannot be extinguished with either sand or water until they are consumed. And the temperature is extremely high, which can reach thousands of degrees in an instant. After struggling for a while, he was burned alive. Diamante chuckled in his heart, and uneasiness and anger welled up in his heart at the same time. Don't underestimate people too much. Quote. He saw a tall and mighty rhino tank crashing towards him recklessly. Diamante furiously raised his cloak. He was the fluttering man of the fruit, and this cloak looked light and fluttering. It is actually made of extremely precious metals. He stepped forward and raised his cloak, not intending to back down at all. Rumble. The soldiers of the rhino tank were also not afraid and directly crashed into it. But Diamante's cloak blocked the crashing tanks. He is a super powerful human being, and before the bounty stopped, the bounty was 99 million Bailey. But usually pirates with a bounty of several hundred million are not necessarily his opponents. Diamante, who blocked the tank, outlined a cruel smile at the corner of his mouth. Die. Quote. He suddenly swung his long sword, bursting out with all his power, and the sword light flashed. With a snort, the entire rhino tank was cut open, including several mobilizers inside. Don't be afraid, these things are just. Diamante was turning his head to encourage his subordinates, who also had quite a few of them. As long as you fight back, when the young master solves the invading leader, the victory will still belong to them. But before the words were finished, the buildings around him suddenly collapsed after being hit by a huge object. More tanks appeared all around them. Embattled in an instant, there is nowhere to escape. There are so many more. Seeing this, Diamante's pupils suddenly contracted. Although it is not completely impossible to deal with. But this amount is not good. But now there is no time to think about other things. The black barrel of the cannon has been aimed at them, like a monster that can choose people at any time. Fire! A 3-star commander decisively ordered. Fluffy. A volley of artillery fired, and the sky in this area was reflected red, with fire and scorched earth everywhere. Then street battles broke out one after another. The mobilized soldiers are not afraid of life and death, like talented wolves, tigers and leopards, and rushed to the enemy one after another. The enemy opened fire, and the bullets hit the body, but failed to kill the mobilized soldiers at the first time. They are all wearing body armor. Unless multiple hits in the same position, or headshots. Mobilized soldiers will die. In an instant, the screams were incessant. Rivers of blood. Ah, Diamante is furious, killing wildly in tanks and crowds, his strength is extraordinary. Soon more than 10 tanks and hundreds of mobilizers were killed by him. But he also gradually felt fatigue. Wait for him to go berserk and kill a wave of rage. When I looked up, I saw that I and a few other small cadres were left standing beside me. Everyone was injured to varying degrees. He is no exception. The second squad is out. Enemy units are physically exhausted and ready to harvest. Quote. Received. So before Diamante could breathe a sigh of relief, he found that a different batch of tanks appeared in his field of vision again, and the number was even more. Grass. Diamante couldn't help but feel a little desperate. Devil Fruit's ability, it seems that this is no more than that, continue to increase the missile and shell bombardment against Mingo, drag him, and solve those cadres first. Ren looked at Diamante's screen and calmly continued to give orders. Cut the differentiation attack, can save more effort. Float. Diamante was surrounded by a group of tanks, and the more ferocious the battle became. Trapped beasts, bloody inspiration, once again slashed 5 rhino tanks with outstanding defense. But the knife in his hand also shattered with a click. The hands holding the knife also look like flesh and blood. Finally, do not throw down the handle of the knife and activate the fruit ability. The palm touches the tank, lightens it, then grabs it with both hands, throws it directly out, collides with other tanks, and causes a bang. From any point of view, Diamante, one of the highest cadres under Mingo. It's all proper superhumans, but at the moment, he also has multiple wounds on his body. If it had been before, Diamante would have rejoiced and become more confident. But now he was silent, and his eyes were getting darker. He saw that no matter how many tanks he flew, the enemy could quickly replenish them. And the officer, who looked like a commander, stood in the distance, quietly watching him. Without the slightest mood swing. It was as if the damage he caused and the strength he displayed were so insignificant. That indifferent attitude made him more and more uneasy in his heart. Where the hell did these guys come from? Powerful weapons, well-trained, soldiers who are not afraid of life and death. It's like a natural killing machine. And this uneasiness quickly translated into reality. Whoosh. In the tank, several objects with protruding tops and periscopes suddenly condensed light. Then the light was blazing, and several laser beams shot out, easily penetrating the wall and several powerful small cadres along the way. What east? A squad leader sensed the danger, turned his head, his eyes were full of hot light, and then his head was pierced. Army flag. Diamante is massively mobilizing capabilities. Let the nearby ground fly like a flag, and let the enemy stand unstable. But at this moment, several laser beams hit at the same time. His pupils suddenly condensed, laser. He didn't have time to escape, and quickly blocked with a fluttering cloak. Laugh at, but the extremely strong steel cloak failed to block it this time. The laser beam shot by the prism tank penetrated. How come? It's really a laser, isn't that Marine Admiral Kizaru's ability? Diamante looked horrified, unable to believe that his defenses could be so weak. Whoosh, and this laser beam is not just one, but several. His steel cloak was shattered, and his abdomen and right shoulder were pierced again. And the subordinates next to him are not as strong as him, under the volley of light prism tanks. Annihilated to ashes. The young master has not yet become the king of thieves. How can I die? Darn, which force are you? Diamante roared unwillingly. He knew that he was probably doomed this time. But he doesn't even know who the enemy is. It is too resignant and unwilling to die like this. But his growl went unheeded. Who cares about a dying person? Stop, Diamante, hold on. But at this moment, a sharp male voice suddenly sounded. It was other cadres who arrived. Even Toripal, which protects sugar in the underground port, is there. This time the enemy invasion was too weird and powerful. They had to fight with all their might. Even the young master is now entangled. They must unite so that they are not defeated by the enemy. It was Pica who spoke, and he was also one of the highest cadres. There are also BABY5 and Rauji around. Violet is still in the palace, activating his fruit abilities and watching the entire Dressrosa. She doesn't have much frontal combat power. And these cadres do not fully trust her. She sees Dressrosa being invaded by millions of soldiers. Her job has always been to monitor all suspicious ships landing at Dressrosa. But this time her staring at the fruit, clairvoyance did not find. She didn't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing. Oops, why is Rebecca in the neighborhood? You have to tell her to leave as soon as possible. Violet was suddenly startled. A few streets away from Diamante, Rebecca stays with a toy soldier. It was this strange toy soldier who took care of her all these years. Violet knew about this. I just don't know why this toy soldier did this. There is no memory of this toy soldier. Soldier-san, what's wrong with this? Behind the ruins of a building, a pink-haired, beautiful, well-developed, adult-like girl hid behind a wall, watching the besieged Diamante. And the Legion, which was like a tide, asked with a slight trembling. I don't know, but it seems to be coming at Doflamingo. You see, they didn't kill civilians. The one-legged toy soldier Cyrus said in a deep voice. Over the years, he had longed for Rebecca to remember that he was her father. But the fruit ability of sugar made him forgotten by the world. With his toy body, he doesn't even have the strength to avenge Rebecca's mother. And Rebecca doesn't remember having a father. But later he learned that the murderer of his mother was Diamante in front of him. After the country broke and her family died, her mother took her to escape, and she was hungry during the escape. On her way to find food for herself, her mother was brutally murdered by Diamante. Since then, she hasn't said a word about "I'm hungry." Those are the 3 darkest words of life. And now that Invincible Thug seems to be dying too, she suddenly found that those soldiers were not terrifying at all. On the contrary, it is like a god under mortals. Fire. The appearance of Pica and others could not change the commander's battle plan in the slightest. Whoosh. In an instant, dozens of laser beams were densely shot, and a group of bombers flew through the sky. Dropped a high explosive bomb on Diamante's position. Thundered. The terrifying explosion completely overwhelmed Diamante and beat him to ashes. I'm going to smash you to pieces. Toripal is the highest cadre, like a slug monster. Watch the flesh and blood left behind after the flames and explosions. The pupils immediately turned a blood red. Diamante is dead. 20 or 30 years ago, they were already very affectionate partners. Except for their own ideological madness. There is indeed a feeling between them. Even for Mingo, these top cadres in Toripal are no different from their families. Among them, Toripal is Doflamingo's leader. Mingo's devil fruit, his philosophy, Toxin thought he could become the One Piece King. It was all instilled in Doflamingo by Toripal. How dare you kill Diamante? Pica's girl-like clip voice is also full of violence. Although it is still funny, it is full of killing intent. He roared, and the whole town roared with him, like an earthquake. Then the earth and stones rose in waves, and buildings rose one after another. Many of the soldiers on Ren's side could not stand and were thrown to the ground. The earth and stone were still surging and combining, and then a giant of earth and stone appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The stone man, who is more than 100 meters tall, raises his hands and feet as if he is about to destroy the heavens and the earth. Pong! As soon as he stepped on it, hundreds of soldiers were trampled to death by him. Pica, though, is a Paramesha stone fruit ability. But the nature of his ability, except that it cannot be elementalized, is not much different from Logia's destructive power. It is a natural disaster. His strength is not necessarily stronger than that of Diamante. But in terms of range of lethality, even Mingay is not necessarily comparable. Unless Mingo enters a state of ability awakening, the whole army retreats, keeps a distance, fire cover. Groups of Badger bombers bomb from high altitudes. Seeing this, Ren ordered into the communicator next to his mouth. Of course, he can pile Pica to death with absolute force. Even if it is a 100-meter stone giant. Radiation, self-detonation, laser all washed. Even square inches do not exist, and Pica can only be consumed. But he has a better, easier way, and that is air unit superiority. No matter how big the Pica is, it is only big on the ground. He just had to send bombers and carpet cover bombing. It is even better to say that in this way, Pica directly becomes a living target. Just like Summit War, Little Oz is huge and powerful. But under fire, it can only be a live target. From the beginning, Whitebeard had no intention of letting Little Oz fight in that fight. Because of that size, it is too easy to be fired. But ace means a lot to little Oz. So in the end it went and poured too. And Ren has firepower, I don't know how many grades stronger than Marine headquarters. This is also the role of the commander, at the minimum cost, to achieve the greatest victory. Want to escape? No way. Finish them off. Pica went berserk, and other cadres were also behind Pica controlling the earth. Once again, the skirmishers have gathered together, and the gangsters and pirates in Don Quixote family uniforms have gathered into a counter-attacking force. They were preparing to pursue the retreating Allied soldiers and tank groups. But a deafening sonic boom suddenly sounded in his ears. Not alone, but densely continuously. Everyone seemed to be in the fury of the sound wave, and their heads were about to be blasted by the roar. There is something in the sky. What's that? Iron bird. I don't know, something fell. Badger bomber, single bomb load up to 9 tons, jet fighter, high subsonic. Mount missiles, incendiary bombs, high explosive bombs. Now 5 fleets are flying by, and there are about 24 in one fleet. The first group flew by, dense high explosive shells, like black raindrops pouring down. The pirates, who have never experienced bombing, are still in a daze. Not sure what this thing is. All became live targets. Boom, 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 boom. The continuous pouring of shells instantly burned this vicinity into a sea of fire. Civilians fled in panic after fighting broke out. The rest, take it with you when the tanks and soldiers retreat. Kill enemies, Ren can do it without changing his face. And civilians can't, because his follow-up concept needs to rely on the power of civilians. Moreover, at the beginning, the man who was kind to him was also an innocent and kind commoner. When the pirates stand in place and receive the baptism of fire, the scene can only be described as purgatory on earth. This is a dimensionality reduction blow. Even if it is a continuous mountain range, it will be burned into scorched earth by a huge number of bombs at this moment. Not to mention that this is mostly flat ground. In addition to some of the people at Pica's feet, other pirates were blown up to blood mist or stumps at the first time. The power of scientific and technological weapons should never be underestimated. Even the power to destroy the world can be born from science. Anyone who underestimates the power of science and technology has the best end now. Roar, and Pica withstood tons of explosives. The giants that had been controlled with their abilities also gradually exploded. Although after the first notice that the situation is not good, he hid in the deepest part of the stone giant. But it was still shaken, and blood spilled out of his mouth. Armament hockey also can't cancel out all the damage. And the earth and stones on the body are constantly blown away and scattered. Once completely blown up, he would not hide in the ground. There can also be life risks. What the hell is going on? Pica wanted to fight back, but those black iron birds flew too high. Even if he stretched out his hand, he couldn't even reach 200 meters. And he is huge. Even if the bomber is at an altitude of a kilometer, he can aim at the target. Rockfall. Pica can only burst his arm and splash the stone into the air. The probability of hitting was too small, and only 2 Badger bombers were broken. In this way, it is only a matter of time before we win. Young master, the big thing is not good, Diamante is dead. A squad of pirates arrives where Doflamingo is surrounded. Brought bad news. What? When Brother Ming heard this, his forehead bulged, and his body was furious, murderous, and angry erupted, like a howling wind of death. Diamante is dead. How dare they? Stuff. Cowards with hidden heads, have the guts to attack us, don't you have the guts to come out and face me? Yes, you coward, Mingo asked, and at the same time, a black and red, crazy conqueror's hockey exploded. Like a storm, sweeping around. At the same time, he waved an overstriking winch in his hand and swept through more than 20 tanks, which were directly swept and cut by the terrible whip in his hand. Where are you taking us? Rebecca and the toy soldiers, as well as some civilians, were trapped in the retreating legion. If it weren't for the fact that they didn't take a tough approach. Cyrus drew his sword early and rebelled. But even so, Cyrus was always vigilant. Stay here and don't move around until the war is over. The 3-star commander in charge of the area said calmly. They took people to an open field without a protective zone. It's just an admonition, and it doesn't actually restrict their freedom. It's just that nearby, a torrent of steel is rolling. The firelight explosions in front of him continued continuously, as if they were going to shatter people's souls. But none of these soldiers had fear on their faces. Lined up, put into the war in an orderly manner. The more Cyrus looked at it, the more frightened he became, if not with his own eyes. I can't believe that there is such an army in this world. Cyrus, who had been the commander of the army at Dressrosa, knew that the army wanted this discipline and good mental qualities. How difficult and incredible. Are you here to destroy this country? A civilian asked tremblingly. Under the influence of the real ability of the sand candy. Almost all citizens have failed to discover the cruel truth behind this country. You'll know soon. The Samsung commander did not say that he was here to save them. Because they lost their memories. Feel that Doflamingo is their wise monarch. But soon, Sugar will be killed or captured. The Lord Commander-in-Chief has already sent several special teams to the underground trading port. At this time, it is estimated that there are not many strong people around her to protect her. Because they were caught off guard. Do you know the truth behind the country of Dressrosa? Look at the way the commander wins. Cyrus suddenly had a bold guess. Maybe they know the truth about the country. If you know, then the enemy of the enemy is your own friend. He can provide intelligence, and even the environment of the underground trading port, he is more familiar than anyone. Maybe even the enslaved mini-humans can be rescued. This could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. No. I'm willing to help you bring down the Don Quixote family. Cyrus no longer hesitated. Although not familiar with these people, but by virtue of their style of not implicating the innocent. At least better than Doflamingo. He gambled. Are you? Former Army Chief Cyrus of Dressrosa. The command palace pressed the communicator in his ear with one hand. Messages were received quickly, although their satellites have long been familiar with every inch of Dressrosa. But the underground trading port is underground, and it is really not easy to familiarize. Even if special operations forces were sent. But every Samsung special soldier is not easy to train. It is naturally best to reduce losses. And the follow-up construction, these former royal family members, will play a huge role. You guys actually know me. Cyrus looked at the 3-star commander named Tanya in shock. Logically speaking, the fruit ability of Sugar still exists, and it is impossible for anyone in this world to know themselves. In this world, everything about him should be forgotten. They still had memories, but he didn't even know them before. Who the hell are they sacred? Lord Commander-in-Chief has agreed to your suggestion, then, please cooperate with our actions. Okay, Rebecca, you stay here for now. Cyrus had seen the firepower of this army. And at this time, no one will deliberately target her daughter. If you stay here, you must be safe. Soldier San, I can protect myself. Rebecca held a large sword and nodded firmly. She knew that Toy Soldier San had important things to do. Cyrus nodded with satisfaction. However, there are still doubts in his heart, this commander named Tanya. It seems that not the most senior commander. What he did just now was to ask a higher level for his proposal. And got the consent of the other party. That is to say, it should be this commander-in-chief who knows his existence. Who is he? That's when Doflamingo's roar resounded throughout the island. Conqueror's hockey exploded. A terrible spiritual shock swept around like a storm. At this moment, the mobilized troops closest to Doflamingo fell with a bang. Lord Commander, under the spiritual storm just now, more than 20,000 people lost consciousness, all of them are 1-star soldiers, 2-star soldiers are not affected, and soldiers in tanks and other weapons and equipment are not affected. Engineers have captured information about this mental storm, and going back can use the mind controller to subliminally cue the soldiers, hopefully eliminating the effects of this mental storm. Received a message from the commander in charge of encircling Mingo. Ren smiled. Conqueror's hockey seemed to be just that. Originally, all his soldiers were strong-willed and not afraid of life and death. This kind of mental deterrence, for them, is not enough to make most people unconscious. But the madness carried by Mingi's spiritual storm still overturned 20,000 people. However, hockey, who can't wrap conquerors, can't do real damage yet. It is simply impossible to bring down these determined soldiers of him on a large scale. And if this happens, his mechanical troops are not unable to deal with it. Let the self-detonators attack, and the intelligence that should be collected has almost been collected. Ren ordered. The loss that the mad Doflamingo takes to him every second cannot be ignored. That tank, a soldier, are his valuable assets. The siege of Dressrosa has so far lost nearly 200 land tanks and a dozen bombers. More than 20,000 unconscious people, 7,000 killed. Although he has 10,000 combat vehicles of various types, more than 800 aircraft of various types, and a total strength of 1.2 million. The above losses cannot be completely ignored. And Doflamingo is crazy. To take him, I'm afraid you will have to fill in a lot of troops. However, as long as you can take Dressrosa, take enough soul ore. Then it's all worth it. Watching under the deterrence of his own conqueror's hockey, only a few people have fallen. There was a moment of astonishment on Doflamingo's face. Some can't accept this reality. His conqueror's hockey has clearly reached a level of ease and ease. And most of those soldiers, most of them are not even comparable to the elite of Marine. At most, ordinary people with certain training. Such a trash fish, under their own conqueror's hockey, within 3,000 meters, no one should be able to stand. How strong can their will be? How strong can it be psychologically? The strength they have shown, they should have seen it. Individual combat power is far above them. If they are not possessed by the weapon and the number. I have long been washed clean of my own blood. The seeds of fear have long been planted in the depths of the heart. And with the density of their troops, Doflamingo estimated. His own outbreak of conqueror's hockey can take down at least more than 100,000 enemies. But the reality is that there is not even a third. This made Doflamingo puzzled and angry at the same time. I don't know what is dead or alive. I will let you have a good taste of how desperate it will be to shoot at us. Quote. No matter how he mocks, how provocative. The head of this army did not allow it. He just spread observation hockey around. An officer resembling a commander was found. He burst into sight, armament hockey, all the way sideways. What tanks, armies, under the sharp cutting properties of his string fruit. All became corpses and broken iron. Even carry a lot of powerful shells falling from the sky. Doflamingo will also kill the officer who gave the order. In his opinion, it would be best if this man was really a commander, even if he was not. Presumably also an important officer in the unit. As soon as he dies, he may be able to force the leader of the enemy out. And he did it too. Although these terrible gunfire can entangle yourself and drag yourself. It can even make him jealous. But with his strength, he really wants to kill someone who is on the front line. It's not difficult, but after the officer's death, Doflamingo found that his situation had not changed in the slightest. That army did not panic in the slightest. Instead, another person who looked like an ordinary soldier quickly took command. Continued to unhurriedly launch an onslaught on him. Dispatch the Apocalypse and Light Prism Tank Group. Received. Dozens of larger steel behemoths rumbled from the crowd towards Doflamingo. These dozens of tanks, like telescopes on their heads, are previously used prism tanks. And on the mount of two thick cannon barrels is the Apocalypse tank. In the middle of the barrel, there are two missile barrels capable of firing anti-air missiles. The whole vehicle uses double uranium guns and mammoth tooth missile launchers. Heavy armor can effectively protect against enemy armor-piercing bullets. The interior is powered by a nuclear engine, making it a fantasy weapon that is ahead of its time. Of course, such a tank, quite expensive. Whoosh! The Prism's tank is the first to attack Doflamingo. Laser beams intertwined into a net and shot towards Doflamingo from all directions. What? Brother Ming was shocked. This laser beam made him feel the danger. His feet were under the invisible lines hanging from the clouds. Quickly dodge the laser beam attack. He is a little confused. This laser weapon, Virgo vaguely mentioned some. But he is not the project leader and does not know the specifics. Just know that there seems to be someone working on this kind of thing in the Marine Science Department. Could it be that it is really the world government's disguised army that wants to pack itself? Woohoo! But Brother Ming didn't have time to think about it yet. That huge tank actually fired missiles at the white clouds in the air. With a bang, the clouds were scattered. Brother Ming, who was standing in the air, stumbled and fell from the air. He can't really stand in the air. It's a line between the clouds with the help of lines, building lines. They know my abilities very well. Brother Ming was immediately shocked. And at the same time, the light prism tank fired another salvo. One laser after another was a dense volley of lasers at the falling Mingo. The cannons of the Apocalypse tanks also roared, from missiles to shells. Covers both air and ground areas. Even if Mingo had observation hockey, it would be impossible to dodge all the shell attacks. This kind of covering attack, he can only choose to resist hard. Awakening. Shield white line. The moment Brother Ming landed, the ability awakened and launched. Assimilate all the nearby ground into white lines, and countless lines form two white shields, closely surrounding Mingay. And covered with armament hockey. Thundered. Lasers, shells, missiles drowned Mingo in an instant. The violent explosion made the entire island seem to tremble violently. The ground crumbled, earth and rocks flew around, and the sea of fire swept by, turning all around into pitch-black scorched earth. The smoke and dust dispersed, and when Brother Ming saw this situation, his pupils subconsciously contracted a little. Especially his shield white line, even if it covers armament hockey. It is still blown to pieces. Let the clothes be broken, and the hands will be bloody, slightly embarrassed. If such bombing continues, he may really die. Birdcage. Doflamingo has entered an ability awakening, and his physical strength is drastically depleted. He must solve these invading enemies in the shortest possible time. After only a few tests, he was probably about to figure out their arrangement. And the center of the arrangement, this place they think is the safest. It must be where their leader is. Wait until the location is determined and their leader is captured. Even if they have more troops, what can they do? Catching the thief first is the most efficient method since ancient times. At that time, you must destroy his whole body. Thinking of this, the corners of Mingyi's mouth became more and more cold and crazy. Dare to take action against them, Don Quixote family. You have to pay a price worse than death. Do you really think that you can win if you have more people? Brother Ming sneered. He shot countless dense white lines towards the sky with one hand, like a white flower blooming, falling from the sky, and then preparing to surround the entire Dressrosa. Just surround them and shrink the birdcage to strangle everyone inside. He had never tried to kill so many people at once. It's a little exciting to think about. But right then, 5 or 6 soldiers were already under the cover of artillery fire just now. Taking advantage of the chaos of the explosion, he lurked behind Mingay. Seized the opportunity and rushed towards Brother Ming. Brother Ming didn't look back, and a sneer hung on the corner of his mouth. Self-righteous sneak attack. Just these trash fish. It's too much to underestimate people. Quote. As soon as Brother Ming raised his hand, a super striking rand with a high temperature and a strong cut appeared in his hand. With just a flick, he can easily kill these sneakers. But right now, the soldiers press the buttons in their hands one after another. The high concentration of high explosives tied to the body was ignited at the same time. Boom boom boom. 5 or 6 soldiers blew themselves up at the same time, affecting a range of more than 50 meters. And Mingo is in this range. Untouchable. Brother Ming was directly thrown out by the explosion. A mouthful of blood spurted away. The pupils are constantly beating. These maniacs. Chapter 11. Human instinct fears death. Doflamingo, who is very good at provoking people's hearts with words and playing with people's hearts, deeply recognizes this. No matter how powerful a person is, no matter what he is carrying. When death comes, how many people can remain calm? He is the dark side of Grandmaster's humanity. In order to mix well in the underground world. But he saw those soldiers just now, expressionless, no anger, no hysterical madness. Only calm, as if self-detonation, pulls the enemy along the road. It's their mission. That kind of calm made Brother Ming, who was used to killing, feel a little chilly in his soul. Are these guys really human? Can human loyalty really reach this level? No, it should not be doubt, but certainty. They have proven everything with their lives just now. Their eyes are not dead and silent, they are emotional. It's just that the feeling is calm. That is, they voluntarily went to give everything for their leader. This is not what a madman is. Boom. Brother Ming was blown up, but he was only slightly injured. But Allied artillery seized every moment. Face such a powerful superhuman monster for the first time. They don't dare to be careless. Win, they are 100% sure. But reduce unnecessary losses, and ensure that Ming Jie will not be able to escape at a critical moment. Pessimism and Apocalypse tanks fired volleys round after volley. Ming Jie even dodged and hit, and the bullet string, 5 color strings in his hand kept swinging and slashing out. Can cut off lasers, but also can cut off shells. But there are too many of them. And the other side is clearly ready for continuous alternating attacks. Ming Jie quickly judged that he wanted to get rid of the result of being consumed alive. Their power must be solved first. The weapons that could threaten his life. Fortunately, that kind of weapon looks limited. I think these weapons are strong, but they must also be more precious. Armed 5 color strings. With a wave of Ming's 5 fingers, 5 different colors, and extremely sharp lines swept out towards the Apocalypse light prism tank. Snort. The prism tank that emits beams of light is immediately cut off. The weak point of the prism tank is that it has strong penetration and lethality, but weak defense. Seeing this, Brother Ming can be regarded as seeing a little hope. But in the next second, a spark of nourishment came out. His 5 color strings can't cut through the thick protective armor of an Apocalypse tank. Bullet string. Mingo Song finger pops up dense thread masses, and the threads wrap armament hockey. It was like a rain of bullets pouring on the Apocalypse tank. The Apocalypse tank clanged. It's also potholed, but it can't be completely broken and crushed. Brother Mingo's heart sank to the bottom at once. It's not that he is incapable of destroying this steel behemoth. If you use an attack power beyond this skill, then his physical strength will not be able to consume the group of tanks in front of him. But even so, he can't sit still. Boom. The artillery fire continues, and when Mingo counterattacks, the allies are also increasing their attacks. They're ready to close the net. Bang bang. Just when Brother Ming was thinking about how to solve the current situation. In the fierce artillery fire, 53 star snipers shot in the dark in an instant. Precise, well-timed. Every 3-star sniper has an extremely long range. If not detected by the enemy, a 3-star sniper can kill hundreds of ordinary soldiers. And in the face of those with ability, their bullets are made of seastone. But East Blue has too few seastones. Only a few nobles and royals would collect some. And Marine Base has a small stock. So there are only 50 snipers at the moment. Every bullet is extremely tricky and precious. After all, seastone bullets are something the system doesn't have. White waves in the wasteland. The Earth has turned into a wave of white lines, and it is both offensive and defensive in all aspects. Poof. But the Samsung sniper timing is excellent. The fastest few bullets hit Mingo's body covering armament hockey. Beat clanging, sparks flying. Brother Ming thought that even if there was a fish that slipped through the net, he should be able to resist a few bullets. But the accuracy of these gunmen is terrifyingly scary. More than 10 powerful sniper bullets landed in the same position. This, definitely, is Shinso hand. But is the number of Shinso hands a bit too much? When Seastone touched, it also weakened his fruit defenses. Poof. The 11th armor-piercing bullet penetrated his chest, front and back. Brother Ming's face changed dramatically. Without any respite, a dense roar resounded in the sky. It's the kind of powerful iron bird. That's denser and more terrifying shelling than Buster Call. He felt it just now. If he is Logia, he is not particularly afraid of this kind of artillery cover. But he's not. He is strong and powerful, and he is still flesh and blood. Twitter. Bombshell after bombshell dropped from the belly of the skimming bomber. This time, the number is not particularly large. But Mingo's observation hockey instinctively told him. This is probably less than 100 rounds of bombshells will be more dangerous. Actually, it is. This is a high explosive bomb with a large yield. Mixed with short-range missiles specially designed to break barriers. 16 wholly murderous bullets. Brother Ming did not dare to be careless, attacked with all his might, and the lines around him formed 16 pillars that seemed to be able to support the sky. Each top is covered with the mighty armament hockey. 16 whips danced wildly in the air, completely detonating every missile and bomb dropped from the air. Don't let them come close. But Mingo can defend the sky, but he can't defend the ground forces at the same time. Fire. Grizzly tank, Rhino tank, Prism tank, Apocalypse tank, multiple tanks roar at the same time. Its cannon sounded, as if it was going to shatter the clouds. Oops. Brother Ming wanted to pull back again, but it was too late. Boom boom boom. The bombardment lasted for 30 seconds. Then a blood-covered figure burst out of the explosion. Mingo did not dare to jump into the air again, but jumped on a tank. With a murderous look in his eyes, his body still flowing with blood, he looked at one of the many Kirov airships in the sky. You, right there. Quote. Yes, but it's a pity for you, there is no chance. Ren said lightly. Mingo's strength and his vitality. Sure enough, his cadres are under this kind of firepower. Dead and wounded, even Pica was shattered. But he was able to hold on to more firepower. But alive at the moment. After all, you are in my truth, 7 warlords of the sea. Dressrosa I laughed. Quote. Another sneak attack, the same move is useless. Mingo looked up and saw some unarmed soldiers around him. Immediately remembered the self-detonating soldier just now. But after seeing the quantity, Ming-jae was a little incredulous. There are so many soldiers who are not afraid of death. How can it be? As far as the eye can see, there are more than 1,000. Although the self-detonator is powerful, it is not expensive. Because they exist, they are disposables. Without Samsung, their thinking ability is still very weak. Only know how to obey orders, and they, can never get to Samsung. Because their existence is to die with the enemy. Who the hell are you? Doflamingo roared to the sky, unwilling. What kind of madman did he provoke? As for using so many lifeless soldiers to take their own lives. He is also a leader and knows how to cultivate a loyal subordinate. It's very draining and resource intensive. He has so many die-hard soldiers, say don't want it. If it was at the beginning, even if there were so many terrible self-detonating soldiers. He was also sure of survival, but now. He was tired of dealing with this endless army. Physical strength has long been weakened to the point of ultimate. The injuries on the body are not light. Maybe, lost yourself, lose badly, and don't even know who the enemy is. He has never fought such a battle. Even in the face of that monster of Kaido, he knows who he lost to. You move me, Kaido, that monster won't let you go. Doflamingo smirked and threatened the mysterious enemy with his last chip. No matter who comes, Kaido of the Beasts is an existence that even the world government does not want to provoke easily. And he's been trading with Kaido all these years. This is something that everyone knows, and it is against yourself. It's against Beasts Pirates. Although reluctant to admit it, Beasts Pirates is powerful. In the absence of Kaido, it is enough to crush them. Otherwise, artificial animal fruits, how could he let the other party dominate for nothing? Boom boom boom. All that could answer Ming-jae was the overwhelming sound of explosions. Continuous explosions drowned him. Billowing smoke carries an endless sea of fire straight into the sky. Tear the clouds apart, scorch the heat, and distort the light. The terrifying blast wave rippled around, set off a raging earth and rock wave, so that the nearby soldiers had to rely on heavy tanks to stabilize their figures. The flames burned for minutes. Young Master, Pica, who was condensing earth and stone at a high place, saw this scene and couldn't help but exhale sadly. At the same time, the Allies issued a notice to the whole island: Doflamingo is dead, disarmed, not killed. Quote. A loud sound fills every corner of the island. No, it's impossible, how could the young master die like this? When pigs fly. Quote. What's going on? Real or fake? Our young master is 7 warlords of the sea, one of the pivotal characters of the underground world, related to the world government, the pirates' 4 emperors, how can he die like this? Quote. Many pirates cannot accept such a fact. The top forces of both black and white are related to their own young masters. And the young master's own strength is extremely strong. How could he die so easily? Is Doflamingo dead? It seems to be. But this, is it true? It felt like in a dream. Violale gently covered her red lips, tears slowly flowing from her eyes. Is the culprit who has dominated their kingdom for 8 years really dead? That explosion was terrifying. In Violet's opinion, it is also extremely tragic. One blow, it even takes thousands of people to follow the funeral. In terms of power, no matter how powerful Doflamingo is, it can't be alive. She had fantasized about such a scene many times. I didn't expect it to come true now. Has this tyrant finally fallen? The man behind the murder of his mother is dead. Rebecca heard this voice with some disbelief. At the same time, an extremely strong desire welled up in my heart. She would love to meet the leader of this legion. If nothing else, just thank you. Impossible, how could the young master be defeated by someone? Rauji, Gladius, Toripal and other cadres cannot accept such facts. But that terrible explosion lasted for several minutes. Pica saw with his own eyes that the young master was submerged by the explosion. They were distracted and hit by missiles and laser beams from Apocalypse tanks. The injuries were more severe. Those who can catch alive are caught alive as much as possible, and the people at the Genetic Research Center need to analyze their genes to see if the scientists in the laboratory can replicate similar fighters. Tanya looked at the situation in front of her and ordered. If you can catch it alive, you can catch it alive, and if you can't, just beat it to death. As long as some flesh and blood tissue can be left, it can probably satisfy the research. Received. Are we going to surrender? Some pirates looked at their companions and hesitated. Surrender, the boss is gone, and a fart, and we have long been surrounded. Many pirates are ready to drop their weapons and surrender. Look at the enemy that seems to have not diminished in the slightest. They are desperate inside. If it weren't for the cadres above and Mingo pressing, how dare they fight this legion of terror? But what if their words don't count? Laying down your arms is not the same as killing yourself. Quote. Speaking of which, their leader did not come out to promise, and this kind of casual words have no credibility at all. As soon as these two sentences came out, many people hesitated. If it is the leader of the enemy army, then the promise under the public is somewhat credible. You can say something like this to any squad leader or something. In case they turn around and don't admit it, it's equivalent to sticking your head out and chopping it off. And at this moment, a Kirav airboat slowly descended, and then unfolded a platform. Ren stood up from the bridge position and looked down at the entire Dressrosa. I am the commander-in-chief of the Allied forces, Ren, and I promise to all those in Dressrosa who are still resisting, disarm and not kill. Quote. He is the leader of this army. Looks so young. Quote. Such a handsome, harmless young man like a noble son, is the leader of this demonic army. Many people in Dressrosa looked up. It's incredible. They thought that the leader of the enemy might be some famous general, or a king. Even sea thieves and the like. But looking at it now, this person is not only a stranger. And so young and handsome, this kind of person should have nothing to do with blood and death. But I didn't expect it to be the mastermind of this war. That is the head of the enemy who attacked us. Slaughter him. Avenge Dover, Toripal said almost madly. Because he noticed that there were many toys around him that were running away. Suddenly become a human or other animal. And the Don Quixote family has a great hatred for them. That is to say, something happened over there. Finished. It's all over. Their decades-long foundation has come to naught. This point, even if Dover comes back to life, cannot be changed. It was a long pent-up riot and anger. Just as everyone marveled at Ren's existence. And when preparing to surrender, a strange laughter suddenly sounded. Farofer, it turns out that you are the boss. It's strange, whether in the world government, or in the pirates, in the underground world, I have never seen you. Who the hell are you working for? No, it doesn't matter anymore. Since you have chosen to be my enemy. Then slaughter. This is the moment I'm waiting for. Quote. Pong. Doflamingo emerges from the scorched earth with a small birdcage wrapped around him. He uses this ability that resembles absolute defense. Fraud to death. In order to lure out the enemy and make him let his guard down. He wielded 16 divine bullets, as vicious as a heavenly demon, and slaughtered Ren. Ren looked calmly, looked at the incoming Doflamingo, and asked lightly, since you are still alive, then give you one last chance to choose. Do you choose to die standing, or bow your head and obey me, and then live? Quote. Great, the young master is still alive. When Toripal and other cadres saw this scene, they couldn't help but be overjoyed. Their young master is so powerful. How can it be so dead? It turns out that everything is to lure the snake out of the hole. This is really the only way. Under that kind of force, once targeted, how to act is no longer up to him. Deception can make the enemy relax his vigilance, and second, it can make local leaders appear. After all, when everything settles, it is impossible for the enemy leader not to appear. And that's exactly what happened. Now the enemy leader appears. And the young master raided and killed a horse gun. You will definitely be able to kill the enemy leader. In this way, the ending will be completely different. Farofer, it seems that you still don't know your situation. A cruel smile hung on Doflamingo's lips. The monstrous anger turned into a deadly madness at this moment. Like a bolt of lightning in the wind, he quickly approached Ren. All the dissatisfaction and depression turned into this mortal blow. The sudden war caused him heavy losses, and even for a time there was nothing to do. If not for a risky try. He really hasn't found any breaking point yet. And from observation hockey feedback, this young man's strength is unlikely to be stronger than himself. It seems that careerists are really wild and untamable, or are kind people easy to control. Ren looked at Mingo, completely ignoring his proposal. I wasn't angry, I just said lightly, and then calmly raised my right hand. A seriously injured 7 warlords of the sea. What threat can it pose to itself? The red alert blaster is fighting an offensive and defensive battle. There is an attack, how can there be no defense? And one of the strongest defensive buildings is naturally the Prism Tower. This was set up by Ren at the beginning. This can be used both to besiege the enemy and prevent him from escaping. Can also act as a defense. Prism towers can not only emit more powerful laser beams than prism tanks. And within a certain interval of the prism tower, the laser energy of all the prism towers can be gathered together. Shoot a super laser that fuses all the prism laser beams. And at the moment, Mingo, who only had Ren in his eyes, didn't notice anything different in the buildings near Ren's feet. Just watching Ren calmly raise his palm, it made him extremely uneasy. But now is the best opportunity. There is no turning back arrow when opening the bow. This guy must be erased. Otherwise, we will enter the situation just now. They are afraid that it will also be a dead end. Towers full of technology. From the bottom, the light flows to the top, and then the beam shoots out to connect with the nearby prism tower. The dots are connected into a line, and then all the lasers converge on a light tower closest to Mingo. Charge up. Burst. When did Dressrosa have such tower-pillared buildings? The moment the light lights up, Mingji's eyes glimpsed the strange tower-pillar state building. Not just one, but all around. Woohoo! A terrifying thick laser beam suddenly shot out. The piercing sound, tearing through the sound barrier, like a lightning crit out. The sky is about to be shot through at this moment. What? This laser beam, faster and stronger. When Mingo sensed something was wrong. Armament hockey is covered all over. But it didn't work. Poof. Like a red-hot knife, pierced into lard. This laser beam easily pierced Ming's heart. The entire body, more than half of the area, disappeared, was annihilated. The body reveals a hollow larger than a human head. Brother Mingo's figure suddenly stagnated. I looked down at my body. It's hard to believe. Myself. It's going to die. Young master, Torapal and others are happy and sad. And this time, what they saw with their own eyes was right in front of them. It's an ironclad reality. Brother Ming opened his mouth, wanting to say something. But there is no chance. Ren raised his right hand again, gently pressed down, and gave the attack order. Woohoo! Another same laser beam came. This blow directly exploded Brother Ming's neck. Corpse separation. If it weren't for the remaining rebels to know that Mingay was indeed dead. And for subsequent genetic research. Brother Ming won't even leave the corpse. This time, Brother Ming can't die again. No more suspense. This scene, through the projection on Kirov, projected to every corner of Dressrosa. We surrender. Surrender. Many pirates and gangsters who followed Mingo were so frightened that they knelt on the spot and dropped their weapons. They no longer feel that this is a harmless young man. This is simply the embodiment of the devil. Even the young master's death-threatening counterattack. All in the calculation of the other party. You traitors. When these high-ranking cadres such as Torapal and Pica heard this, they were extremely angry. But then it was overwhelmed by terrible fire. Consumed alive, blown up. There is no point in fighting any longer. Not all cadres will follow a person who has died. In addition to the senior cadres, other cadres have chosen to surrender one after another. Of course, some are not surrendered, but captured alive. Dressrosa is liberated. We are free. Quote, Doflamingo, the tyrant, is finally dead. When the fruit capacity of granulated sugar is lifted, everyone's lost memories are back. I learned that all this time, they were just living in the hypocritical peace kingdom built by Mingo. In fact, many of their loved ones were turned into toys. Working day and night in the underground trading port to death. Watch the civilians of the entire Dressrosa fall into an Ren smiled with satisfaction, so emotionally nourished. It is destined that the soul ore of this island of Dressrosa will not be less. This time, how much can your own troops be increased? 2 days later, Marine Headquarters. Report Marshal Sengoku. The Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral has escaped from the enemy barracks and is on standby in Logue Town. Not long ago, Marshal Sengoku ordered one of the candidates for Marine Admiral to go to East Blue. Try to free the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral. If the other party can negotiate the conditions. It's not as rampant as in the phone bug, that's the best. After all, it has been decided to go to all-out war with Whitebeard. Take Whitebeard, announcing that the world government has increased due to pirates in recent years. And diminishing authority. At this time, any event is prioritized later. What can be resolved by peaceful means is resolved by peaceful means. As for whether to settle accounts after the fall, that is a matter for later. If it cannot be solved by peaceful means, then you have to make a quick decision, Admiral's alternate. The extraordinary Marine Vice Admiral can compare. And also with the fleet. If the other side thinks that it depends on hundreds of thousands of horses, you can be at odds with Marine Headquarters. That's undoubtedly whimsical. Unexpectedly, the rescue operation was just ready to begin. The Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral has already escaped. Did I overestimate that army in the kingdom of Goya? Sengoku frowned. I always feel that there seems to be a fog in it that I can't figure out. But specifically, Marshal Sengoku could not think of it for a while. The report of the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral looks fine. It says that they were caught in an ambush in the night. They were caught off guard by the enemy captured them, detained their ship, and tortured your phone bug number from the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral's trusted subordinates. The prisoner guarding them last night was drunk, and the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral seized the opportunity to get the key and took the Marines all the way out. Judging from the report, although the number of people who arrested them is large, their individual strength is not strong. Garp picked up the report from the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral. Is something wrong? Garp asked, puzzled. No, I also talked to Vice Admiral on the phone just now and confirmed some things, and I am indeed right. Marshal Sengoku shook his head and said. So what else are you worried about? My intuition tells me something isn't quite right. Intuition. It seems that it is still necessary to let people get close to the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral, but with the character of the Flying Squirrel, it is impossible to betray Marine. Garp didn't ignore Sengoku's instincts. The two have known each other for many years, and Sengoku's instincts have always been accurate. Of course I know this. The Flying Squirrel has been in Marine for decades, and Sengoku still believes in him. Maybe it's just a little madman who doesn't know how to sever. It's really like that, Sengoku-san. I heard that there is something wrong with East Blue. Do you need the old man to take a trip? Kizaru knocked on the door. No need, it's solved for the time being. Prepare for the battle with all your might. That guy from Whitebeard is not easy to deal with. Indeed, this is a headache. Has it been decided above? Hearing this, Kizaru nodded and rubbed his temples in distress. This matter in particular has to do with Vice Admiral Garp. Well, the 7 warlords of the sea mandatory summoning order has been issued, but those guys, one by one, don't even want to answer the phone bugs. Sengoku said dissatisfiedly. How normal this is. They also know that when Marine is looking for them, there must be nothing good. They can't receive phone calls, so they can have a tactful excuse. Garp said of course. It seems that they can only let the nearest Marine inform them of the summoning order in person. By the way, Kizaru, what's going on over there at Dressrosa? Kizaru came back from New World the other day. There is a passing by Dressrosa. If the forces of East Blue are ready to attack Dressrosa, it is impossible to have no action at all in the early stage. Dressrosa, it's not a situation, it's that guy in Heavenly Yaksha doesn't have a good attitude. Are the pirates so arrogant now? Sengoku-san, is 7 warlords of the sea really a must? Kizaru said slowly. You know the strategic significance of the 7 warlords of the sea, their role is obvious, and it's not for us to decide. Got it, I thought there was something going on with Dressrosa. It seems that the emerging force of East Blue is indeed just that. Do you think too much? Marshal Sengoku thought to himself. Presumably, too, an East Blue force. Say you want to take Dressrosa. Just this long distance and the climate of the Grand Line. It is enough to make more than 90% of the forces intimidated. Not to mention that Heavenly Yaksha guy is extremely powerful. Now, New World G4 Marine Base Ideographic Period. Head of Charge, Admiral Alternate, Mamasagi Guion. I even want to inform the clown that guy to respond to the mandatory summoning order. Even if this kind of scum wants to go, he will definitely sit on the ground and raise the price. I don't know what benefits he wants this time. Mamasagi frowned, extremely unhappy. Her marine base, not far from Dressrosa. On the sea, there are frequent clashes with the fleet under Doflamingo. She's not used to 7 warlords of the sea. So all along, the contradictions between them are not small. But because of the upper head and Shichibukai system, it has not completely torn its skin and controlled it on the verge of violent walking. That's why I know that Doflamingo is extremely difficult. She even repeatedly suspected Doflamingo of illegal transactions that even the world government forbids. She sent a lot of good marine to dive into Dressrosa. In the end, there was no news. And this memory was only remembered by her in the past 2 days. She felt incredible. Such an important thing, I forgot it before. So this trip to Dressrosa, she had to ask for clarification. She also guessed that this was most likely because the clown guy might have some special abilities in his hands. After all, that guy can also produce artificial zone devil fruit. There are some strange abilities. Not surprising at all. And Mamasagi-sama, are we still going to Dressrosa? A female officer next to her looked at her adult's extremely dark face, and asked cautiously. Go. Dressrosa Ideographic Period. Palace Heights. Ren sits inside a lavish palace. Enjoy the food and wine that characterizes Dressrosa. Kaya waited carefully, her eyes full of tenderness and adoration. In front of Ren, kneeling a group of handcuffed prisoners with both hands and feet. Lord Ren, former king of Dressrosa. Visit of Dolder 3. A soldier hurried in and saluted. It's only been 2 days, it's a little slow, let them in. Ren continued to savor the food in front of him. The seismic change that took place in Dressrosa. There was no word out of the country at the first time. The message was blocked. The more intelligence is leaked, the more it is researched and targeted, and there will always be weaknesses exposed. Confuse the enemy and let the intelligence mislead the other side as much as possible. This is the basis of intelligence warfare. For 2 days, Dressrosa implemented a policy of isolation. The war will destroy several areas of Dressrosa. Many places are in ruins and scorched earth. On the same day, Doflamingo and the top cadre were killed. That night all the main streets of Dressrosa, all the ports were heavily guarded. At the same time calm the chaos, anyone who tries to take advantage of the fire at this juncture. All were arrested alive or killed. Even some creatures that have changed from toys back to animals, and want to make trouble, they have to be slapped twice and imprisoned again. So the civilians are panicking. They don't know where this legion came from. It's not clear whether it's good or bad. What the hell is he attacking Doflamingo for? What is the attitude towards them? They don't know. All along, they thought Doflamingo was Mingjun. Unexpectedly, his darkness is only hidden deep, not non-existent. It wasn't until the next day that someone slowly came out of the room. At first, many people were curious when they heard the jingling sound. They saw the soldiers unloading their weapons. Wood and steel are being moved. They built new houses on those destroyed scorched earths. The streets are also being mended. At the same time, they keenly noticed that many strong, reinforced concrete pillboxes appeared on the coastline overnight. There are large soldiers stationed in the pillboxes, and each pillbox is not tall. It is mainly underground space, and only one part of the ground is exposed. Light and heavy machine guns were erected in pitch black. And they found that there were far fewer soldiers on the island than when they first arrived. At least the existing army will not appear crowded in Dressrosa. And along the entire Dressrosa coastline, steel warships are surrounded. Seal off the entire island. At the same time, the radio waves are also disturbed, and the telephone worm cannot talk to the outside world. Inside and out, Dressrosa overnight. It was like a military kingdom, like a steel forest. Even the island where the little Terrans lived, Greenbit, was no exception to the heavy troops. The bridge, which was originally damaged by the Duyu, was also repaired by Allied engineers and reopened. Stronger metal is used. If the betta fish hits again, it will only break the blood flow on its head. The Lilyhuman slaves were rescued before. Good-natured, they already see Ren as their savior hero, the great benefactor. By the way, the soldiers stationed on the island at this moment can often receive fruits and vegetables from the villains. Dressrosa has some buildings on the island at the moment, which are particularly eye-catching. For example, the light prism towers arranged around the palace heights according to a certain distance. Many of them remember them well. Doflamingo was killed by this thing. There is another scenery that everyone on Dressrosa does not understand. It was mining trucks, collecting soul ore. The soul ore is invisible to ordinary people. But it exists in various parts of the island. It is the crystallization of energy produced by strong emotions. It was the first thing Ren did after taking Dressrosa. Equipped with machine guns, these mining trucks weave through the streets under the protection of soldiers. At first, everyone thought it was their surveillance. It turned out later that was not the case. Because of this mining vehicle, sometimes the houses of civilians are razed to the ground. The villagers who were razed to the ground dared not speak out at first. But soon someone stepped forward to negotiate. Say the Allies will pay them a better house. Free replacement for a bigger house. And it was implemented the same day. This has caused many people whose houses have been damaged to become active and active. I can't wait for the Allied soldiers to come and demolish their homes now. There are bold already in action. And with the most basic contact and communication. The residents slowly discovered the group of soldiers. Principled, not arrogant. Don't bully men and women. That's more of a good guy than many Marines. It's easy to get along with, and slowly, people's courage has grown. It's only been 2 days, and they even feel it. It seems not bad if it can be protected by such an army. In this troubled world, who does not seek a peaceful place? Some people live in order to be able to obtain a safe and quiet place. Even at the cost of selling their own life. On Four Emperors Island, that's how it's charged. Cyrus, King Riku, Rebecca, Violet saw everything in their eyes. After much contemplation, King Riku decided to talk to the leader of the Allied forces. He felt that he was no longer qualified to be king. Even if the country is theirs. Even after Doflamingo fell and the truth was revealed. The people of the whole country knew that he had been misunderstood, and the more voices he made to return to the throne, the more he sounded. More and more intense. King Koliku felt that he was not qualified for this. He just wanted to know the purpose of this army. The Riku clan has ruled Dressrosa for a long time and is extremely famous. And the allies seem to be acting in a good style. But it's just not treated as bad guys and thugs. And I don't know if this is an illusion or sincere. Compared to uncertainty. In fact, more people still support King Riku's return to the throne. In the past 2 days, Ren mining vehicles have begun to purchase soul ore in Dressrosa. Originally 5 million soul ore deposits, after the temporary construction of the prismatic tower and the battle fortress. It cost a lot, and now these less than 5 million soul ores. It soared directly to 1 billion soul ores. And that number is soaring. Because for these 2 days, Ren will all the mining vehicles of the other Goya kingdoms and the Aniv kingdoms. It was teleported through the chronological device. A full 1,000 mining carts are mined at the same time. This is enough to prove how rich the soul ore deposited on the island of Dressrosa really is. Once again, it is also proven. It was wise for him to wage war against Dressrosa at all costs. After 2 days of mining, Dressrosa's soul ore was probably about a third of it. And in each kingdom, although the richest batch of ore can be mined in a very short time. But as long as there are people living in this kingdom, some soul ores are also produced one after another every day. It's just not as rich as the first time it settles. But don't look at the current billion soul ores, it seems that there are a lot of them, and they can't be spent. But Ren had previously taken the kingdom of Goa. Almost 500 million soul ores were obtained. This is why the first $1 million fully equipped legion was pulled. 5 million, just the balance that was previously used and used by Ren just in case. 1 billion soul ores, converted into soldiers, are probably only equivalent to 5 million soldiers. If you also have to equip it with corresponding tanks, planes and the like, you can't burst out 5 million soldiers. But fortunately, 1 billion soul ores are only the first income. Going on like this, Ren felt that it was not a problem to explode thousands of soldiers. Of course, investment in superweapons, gene converters, gene centers is indispensable. especially when it comes to genetics. Ren is also looking forward to his senior engineers being able to unravel Devil Fruit's secret. Build a stronger army. Oh, so many people want to see me. It wouldn't be that you want me to step down from the throne. Ren looked up as the soldiers brought the visitors into the main hall. At a glance, in addition to King Riku, the others are basically famous families or famous merchants in Dressrosa. These people came together. The purpose does not have to be simple. Perhaps King Riku came with a relatively simple purpose. But others, I'm afraid, are more likely to meet the opportunity to act. They want to weigh their weight. If you feel like a bully, I'm afraid that some favorable conditions will be put forward for them. Ren, who have already conquered 2 countries. The careful thinking of these people is thorough. Arnif, a country that is not well known in East Blue. After being taken down by himself, the nobles also tried to negotiate conditions with themselves. Speaking of conditions, Ren is honestly not against it. After all, his soldiers don't need logistics though. But the kingdom he has conquered still needs to be governed. And they need a variety of resources to strengthen their own troops. Seastone, for example, is useful. Things that can be solved with money are always more affordable than those solved with soul ore. But when it comes to talking, we must have a correct attitude. The loser should have the appearance of the loser. The loser is also arrogant. Who will yearn for victory? So Ren cleaned up the nobles with a bad attitude on the spot. As for the kingdom of Goya, it is even worse. The aristocracy of that country did not even understand the 3 words of current affairs. Always think of yourself as a thug, you have to kill yourself. Ren simply killed them all. So as not to look obstructive. So strictly speaking, Dressrosa is currently the kingdom where Ren has left the most upper-class people. Of course, only at the moment. Now is the moment to decide more or less for the future. Don't dare listen to Ren. Those high-class people who came with King Riku. There was a chill in my heart. This young guy should not be a tyrant. Want to find an excuse to destroy them. Otherwise, as soon as he opened his mouth, it would involve the issue of the ownership of the throne. A few who were not bold thought of the dead brother Mingo. I heard Ren extremely difficult answer. As soon as his legs softened, he immediately knelt in front of Ren and said words of admission. Ren was expressionless. These guys look pathetic now. But as long as it's on their side, they can also be more powerful than anyone else. This may be the fascinating secret of power. If Ren is not from another world, it's a native pirate. After such achievements, maybe the mentality will swell, or it will be satisfied. But Ren knows that the world is not changing. Not only did he not even have a stable life, there will not even be a future. And Doflamingo is just a small stone in this foundation. He has bigger and farther goals in front of him. Far from it. Recently, 4 emperors Kaido learned about Dressrosa. Will definitely see themselves as enemies. No, my grandfather is here to thank you. A crisp and beautiful voice suddenly sounded. Rebecca, don't be rude, you promised me I wouldn't talk nonsense. Cyrus next to King Riku looked back at Rebecca behind him and said accusingly. That's when Ren found out. Behind Cyrus' tall and mighty figure stood a beautiful girl, who looked about 18 years old. Although she is small, her hardships since childhood have created her unusually tenacious will. She was afraid that Ren would misunderstand their intentions. That's why I can't wait to speak. Because she didn't want this godlike man to misunderstand them. Maybe they could be good friends, she thought. Because none of them like Doflamingo. As Rebecca said, we have no ill intentions, and I know that I don't deserve to shoulder this country again. I have come to thank you for saving our country. King Riku said. Generously knelt down in front of Ren. Seeing this, the others hesitated, but they all knelt down. Rebecca was stunned for a moment, and then followed suit and knelt down. It didn't feel like much. After all, he avenged his mother for himself. A kneeling thanks, as a matter of course. Ren didn't look at the bad old man of King Riku for the first time. Instead, he looked at this pink-haired, cute, and extremely well-developed girl. You are Rebecca, quote. Yes, you know me. Rebecca looked up when she heard this, her eyes shining. He actually knows himself. But why haven't I seen him before? Cyrus, on the other hand, was a little worried, and scanned the surroundings with the afterglow of his eyes. Inside, these kneeling prisoners. Many of them were former Doflamingo cadres. Baby 5, Senor. Pica, Sugar, Rosa. There are many pirate captains stranded in Dressrosa. Is this judging and deciding their fate? The timing of waiting for someone to come by myself does not seem to be very good. How old? Ah, 14 years old. Quote, are you sure you're 14? Ren expressed serious doubts. This level of development, said 18 years old people believe. Yes, yes, Rebecca subconsciously lowered her head. The man's slightly aggressive gaze swept past her. But she obviously thought too much. Ren asked, only now though Rebecca is only 14 years old. But 2 years later, at the age of 16, except for the slightly immature face, there is not much difference in figure. It's also very well developed. Cyrus and King Riku thought Ren was asking. Probably something interested in Rebecca. Could it be that this man is a womanizer? Just as I was about to say something, the man suddenly fell silent. Ignored the matter. They can feel an invisible pressure gradually increasing. You guys stay on the sidelines, I'll take care of some chores first. Ren waved his hand and asked King Riku and the others to get up. Soon there were soldiers who brought them chairs. How's that you guys thinking about it? Ren said, looking at the kneeling prisoner in front of him. Ren gave them 2 days to think about it. The combat power of these people is good. And some people are not bad by nature. Baby 5, for example, her heart is broken. When I was a child, because I was not needed, I was felt worthless by my family and felt that it was a loss of money. They were thrown into the forest to fend for themselves. Such a childhood led to a huge mental defect in Baby 5. As long as she is needed, she will help others unconditionally. She even borrowed a lot of money for others. Loaded with a lot of debt. Joined the Don Quixote family. It's also because they said they needed her. And like Senor, he is dressed funny and wears a pink baby hat. With a pacifier in his mouth and wearing a yellow diaper with a star pattern. More than a decade ago, he was originally a very handsome man in a suit and leather shoes, like a gentleman. He was genuinely in love with a woman named Lucian. Because the woman hates pirates, he lies about being a bank employee. The two fell in love and soon married. After marriage, he ran back and forth between missions and family. But once he came back to find that his child had fallen ill and died. Lucian also discovered that he was not a bank clerk. Grief-stricken fled from him. As a result, due to a rainy landslide, Lucian was hit in the head by a stone and became a vegetative person. Grief-stricken, Senor made her laugh again. Using various methods to coax her, by chance, he found his son's clothes to wear on his body. And then she laughed. So for so many years, he has maintained this dress. Even if he was ridiculed everywhere he passed, he still went his own way. These people are not bad to the bone. And they are all capable people. If they are willing to take the initiative to cooperate with the scientists of the Gene Center to do various ability tests. Maybe it won't be long. A group of stronger soldiers will be born. In this world, explosives are indispensable. But who will refuse an increasingly powerful soldier? This is indeed a trial. Listen to the words of the man in front of you. These cadres have lost their former grace. Their young master was killed and fell. Many people suddenly lost their goals and lost hope. Avenge. It is not very popular in the world of pirates. Bah, think about it. Want us to surrender to you? Who do you think you are? If you want to kill, you can scrape as you like. Raoji, the rickety old man, spat disdainfully. He is a master of physical arts, the physical skills of Ming-Jie and Luo. He taught it at first. He has a strong sense of belonging to his family and is still unwilling to surrender at the moment. I have given you enough time to think about it, so this time is the final answer. Since you don't want to, then play the last value to pull down, and send it to the laboratory. Ren said lightly. Live and obey, although the value is high. But dead people also have value. I'm going to kill you. Raoji struggled angrily. But with a few clicks, he was dragged out with broken hands and feet. King Riku and the others watched with a little chill. Is this trick to surrender others, even without even opening the slightest price, and not persuading? Just ask like this, pull it down if you don't agree. And sent to the laboratory. Human experiments. It's better to think about it than to die. Ren's gaze then fell on the few remaining cadres. A group of the most loyal top cadres have already died in battle in the first 2 days. The bodies were transported to the laboratory. These are people who have the potential to submit. Although he has a lot of troops, he is also a person who needs ability. They will be very convenient to use. What will happen to him? Asked a cute loli in a spotted bear dress, sugar with fear in her eyes. Her actual age is not young, and she can be affected by the fruit of childlikeness. Her mind is not very mature. Otherwise, you won't be scared like that by Usopp in the future. And her ability is indeed very practical. But 2 days ago, whining. Thinking of this, her heart was still a little trembling. She was still in the castle of the underground port, well protected by his subordinates. But suddenly a group of strange-looking, disgusting, terrifying soldiers appeared and scared her half to death. Dozens of long-range sniper rifles were then aimed at and fired at the same time. In a state of confusion, she was shot and captured alive. And that kind of terrifying soldier, she heard about it in these 2 days, their commander, named Yuri. What genes are those cyborgs? Now, every time she closes her eyes, the group of terrifying soldiers like demons comes to her mind. Of course, doing human experiments, squeezing out your last value, these things should be familiar to you. Of course, our methods may be more extreme. Ren smiled slightly. Human experiments that are more radical than Doflamingo. The upper-class people who followed King Riku had an unnatural look on their faces and trembled slightly in their hearts. There is no need to lie to prisoners like this. And people who can control so many armies. It is also unlikely that someone will be soft-hearted. This time, it seems that it is difficult to ride a tiger. This guy can't be more pervert than the tyrant Doflamingo. Sent away a tiger, and as a result came a dragon. King Riku's face was also a little unnatural. Body cells can extract powerful genes, the brain can test the degree of influence of mind controllers, fruit abilities help us study new soldiers, and even, your emotions can become our nourishment. Think about it, you are still very valuable, even if you die. I am willing to submit to you, please don't open my mind. Before Ren finished speaking, Sugar quickly kowtowed and surrendered. She was really scared. Human laboratory, what kind of purgatory is that? She knows better than anyone. Once Doflamingo took them to Kaiser Korin to do research. She shuddered. And this is still Monet's management, before the experiment, generally ensure that the subject is not aware. And give treatment to the relative human point. But when it came to the experiment, the scene was still uncomfortable. But the young master said that these were necessary sacrifices. They also know that the world is not merciful. Instead of misfortune landing on yourself, it is better to be the one who inflicts misfortune. What's wrong with people being selfish? But if you become an experimental subject yourself, that's probably worse than death. Sugar's inner loyalty, thinking about it, is still not as important as his own life. If the young master was still alive, she would certainly not betray easily. But people are dead, and people have to look forward. Do you need me? As for the BABY5 in a maid outfit, he doesn't even need Ren to say anything. She asked, and Ren nodded. Then she agreed. A real man will never betray a friend, even if he is dead. Senor said without fear. Therefore, for the sake of a dead person, you have to let a poor woman wait for a lifetime. Of course, it is estimated that you can't wait for a lifetime. Without your money, your care, the hospital will soon give her up. You, Senor was dumbfounded by Ren's words. You can choose again. Ren didn't say anything, just gave the most holy person an extra chance. Willing to work for you. Quote, hey, we want to work for you too. Seeing this, the others lowered their once proud heads. Other pirate captains, there is no choice. They are the fish ponds that have been affected. For them, surrender is only short-lived. As long as the opportunity is right, they will slip away. In fact, they can accept it without slipping away. In the pirate world, it is very common for the weak to eat the strong, lose, and become a vassal of others. Yuri, they're in your hands. Ren said to a masked officer next to him. Yes, sir, I promise they have no chance of betrayal, Yuri said decisively. Hearing this sound, Sugar couldn't help but shiver a little. It's the devil, the mind controller, the gene center, these are all handled by Yuri. However, mind control will leave some brain sequelae to some extent. If it is not an object that must be controlled, you don't need to use a mind controller. especially if you use it as little as possible for your own people. But if it is an enemy, then there is no such concern. When you're done, throw it into the enemy group. Windfalls may follow. After dealing with these prisoners, just getting ready to negotiate with the upper class of Dressrosa, there was another report from outside, saying that a delegation of Princess Manchuri of the Lilyhuman tribe had come to visit. For this group of small people who are extremely easy to trust others and harmless to people and animals, Ren liked it a bit. It is also rare to be able to do this as an intelligent creature. But in this way, they are too easy to be deceived. After that, some personnel have to be lined up and some basic education will be carried out. After all, the strength of this team is indeed very good. And to hide people's eyes, the barracks and tank factories that are now open are located on the small island of Glibet. There are only Lilyhuman clans here. Now every moment, Ren forces and weapons are increasing. Soon Princess Manchuri, who was as beautiful as a doll, but only the size of a palm, walked in with elegant steps. King Riku naturally saw it too. He was relieved to see that they were okay. Soldier San, Leo, Manchuri's escort, saw Cyrus. I recognized him immediately. Over the years, it was Cyrus who led them forward, trying to rescue their people and overthrow Doflamingo's rule. I just haven't been able to find a good opportunity. Now that everyone has arrived, I'll make a long story short, Dressrosa is not our final destination, so besides me, I will choose an agent among you, my agent. Ren eyes swept over everyone present. And emphasize it again. Hearing this, the eyes of the upper class of Dressrosa immediately lit up. Although it is the representative of this leader, but it also symbolizes great power. If it was Ren before disposing of these prisoners, many upper-class people may introduce themselves. After all, everyone wants to climb high. But Ren was clearly not a benevolent monarch. Even the taboo of human experimentation can be said casually. If they do something wrong, I am afraid that it will also become a test object. But I want to have some rights in Dressrosa in the future. That may only be able to rely on King Riku. King Riku is not only a former royal family, but also extremely talkative. If it is the Riku king, they should be able to gain some benefits to some extent. I think King Riku can be your agent. King Riku was originally a former king, but he was only framed by Doflamingo to be considered a tyrant, and now he is wronged, and King Riku's influence in the people is very large. A nobleman suggested. Yes, that's right. As soon as this remark came out, other high-class people also agreed. In public and private, King Riku is their best choice. Violet looked at the man in front of him. Still calm, not even surprised. Isn't that the outcome he wants? No, I can't take this position. Moreover, we do not know if he will lead our country to destruction. Riku Akoku looked at Ren hooked ly. He still thinks about the whole country. Although he was also jealous of the young man in front of him. But think of what he just did. It is really difficult to connect him with a generation of Mingjun. This is something that ordinary people dare not ask in this situation. King Koliku had to ask. As soon as these words came out, Ren also put down the tea that Kaya had just made for him. The surroundings suddenly became quiet. King Riku's memory doesn't seem to be very good. What do you say? King Riku didn't quite understand. Without our arrival, what is the difference between your country before you and its demise? Now that you're worried about the future, what do you use to question our existence? Quote, your useless mercy, or is it empty talk of practical ideals? Everyone wants peace, and peace is of course right, but for the sake of peace, they ignore the most basic things of peace, and that is harming people. Quote, Ren's slightly icy voice made King Riku frown. But come to think of it, what he said is not unreasonable. The most basic thing about peace. King Riku has always been benevolent and close to the people of the superior. That's what he's always done. And it is indeed very popular. It's force, no force, with what to protect peace. Such a simple and understandable truth. As the head of a country, you should not understand it, but you still choose benevolence. But without force, Renji is just a dream bubble. Quote, when Doflamingo hit, what did you use to convince such a person? There is no force and there is no force, but they are two different things. And a kingdom that is no different from destruction, but you try to tie the survival of this country to me alone. Don't you think it's funny? Ren would not choose King Riku as his surrogate. They are even less likely to morally kidnap themselves. But you are now the king of Dressrosa. And I will not let everyone fall into crisis again. King Riku did not back down in the slightest. Only at this point, he could not do it. Even if he is no longer king. But he still loves this country. So, if I'm going to destroy the whole of Dressrosa right now, what are you going to do to stop me? Ren's fluttering words made everyone fall into the ice cellar. They don't know Ren. I don't know if he will do it. They don't dare to bet. When King Riku heard this, he almost failed to slow down in one breath. But I can't find any words to refute it. If he did, what could he do? As if nothing could be done. It seems that you have clearly realized that Dressrosa can restore the status quo and not perish because of my existence. Therefore, empty ideal words, do not say it again. Quote, I will take Dressrosa to a brighter and better tomorrow. But if in the process, it perishes, then this is the number of lives. Quote, so you are not fit to be my agent. Listen to Ren. The upper class of Dressrosa was a little stunned. If Dressrosa perished, would it only be considered unlucky? He didn't have half a nostalgia for Dressrosa. Here now, just because of the need. He didn't even put a kingdom in his eyes. So what is he trying to do? And the king who has made mistakes can no longer be in power, and his authority is not enough. Ren's eyes skipped over the lonely Riku king. Can I be Ren agent? King Riku doesn't care. He was just reflecting, did he really do something wrong? What kind of benevolence you think is such a vulnerable thing? This agent, you don't need to discuss, let Rebecca be the agent. Ren had planned before attacking Dressrosa. The experience of a suffering princess is slightly sculpted with a story. Wouldn't it be more legendary and more captivating? Her identity and bloodline also have a strong reputation. Moreover, being young means good control and good tuning. It's easier to accept new ideas. What? Hearing Ren's words, King Riku, Cyrus and other high-class people were shocked. He actually chose an underage girl to be his agent. Dressrosa since its founding, there has never been a precedent for a woman to become king. But, this does seem to be easier to control. It's just that they can't accept it for a while. Lord Ren, Rebecca, she's just a child. When Cyrus heard this, he immediately expressed his attitude of resistance. He just wanted Rebecca to be safe and healthy. And when she is in power, I am afraid that she is only a puppet. The bottom line is that she really is just a child. Although experienced a lot, the mind is precocious. But in the eyes of a father, she is a child. I'm not going to let you take advantage of a child, it's a big deal for us to leave Dressrosa. King Riku also hardened his breath at this time. That's so inappropriate, isn't it? How can a child take on great responsibilities? If the agent is a puppet outright, then these original nobles, I'm afraid that I won't get any benefits. I think Cyrus can also act as your agent. He's only fit to be a fighter. Cyrus didn't think anything was wrong. I'm not asking for their opinion, I'm just waiting for your answer, Princess Rebecca. Will you be my spokesperson to run the country? Ren smiled and looked at Rebecca. He could tell that Rebecca felt good about him. It couldn't be better. Otherwise, you will have to use a mind controller. As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes fell on Rebecca. Rebecca was watched by everyone. A little nervous, she didn't know how to answer for a while. There was silence for more than 10 seconds. After some thought, she asked a sentence. If I become your agent, will everyone be able to eat enough in the future? Quote. She had lost her mother because she was hungry and wanted to eat. So in her opinion, everyone can eat enough, and there will be no similar tragedy. It's something you can decide. Then I do. Then it's decided. Dressrosa elites were a little disappointed. But resist, they don't have the courage to resist. They also knew the sophistication of this young man. It seems that I want to live a good life in the future. Never be an enemy of this man. Let's live honestly. And she is also the granddaughter of King Riku. It's also barely acceptable. So as not to let them give up the industry and leave their homeland. Another 2 days passed. Dressrosa has changed dramatically. The sea is also turbulent. And Ren also arranged a backhand on the island of Dressrosa that can target monster-level powerhouses. 100 nuclear bomb silos, distributed by Ren near the various fortified military fortresses in Dressrosa. After all, East Blue is too far away, The climate of the Grand Line is extremely unstable. Even if there is a nuclear bomb hitting the New World, the probability of hitting is too low. But Dressrosa is different. As the first island of the New World, it is located on the left and right of the middle of the Grand Line, close to Red Line and Marineford. Whanokuni is only a short and medium distance. The nuclear bomb silo is arranged here, which is the most convenient. Quote, take Dressrosa. Beasts Pirates lost its artificial animal fruit. You will not let yourself go easily. But even if Kaido didn't set his sights on himself, Ren couldn't have let him go. Whanokuni ruled longer. And they didn't even do a whitewash like Doflamingo. Whanokuni was dominated before Oden returned. It's been decades now. Such a country to take down. Ren could imagine that his soul ore would definitely rise much more than taking Dressrosa. So even if Kaido doesn't set his sights on himself, keep an eye on Kaido's head. It was decided to erect a nuclear bomb silo in Dressrosa. It's to deal with the monster Kaido. Ren didn't dare to underestimate. It was the monster of the strongest creatures. Nuclear weapons that are not needed against Mingo. Once faced with Kaido, Ren felt it was a must. And they are all concentrated on the Ghost Island, and there is no need to worry about affecting civilians. Even to be on the safe side, Ren is buying 100 nuclear bomb silos. And not one or two. 1 or 2 nuclear bomb silos alone, the time interval between launches is too long. But if there are 100 silos for nuclear bombs, that can basically achieve continuous and uninterrupted bombing. Ren doesn't believe in monsters that people can defeat. You can't die with a nuclear bomb. One blow up does not kill. What about 100, 1,000? And these 100 nuclear bomb silos. It cost Ren 5 million soul ore. Build another 100 weather controllers. Accurate lightning storms may not be useful to Kaido, but he also has a lot of elite subordinates. Ren uses Kaido as an imaginary enemy. Do not hesitate to spend a lot of soul ore for various superweapon construction. It is also important to add 200 more gene centers to improve the strength of the overall soldiers. Ren's soul ore can be said to be rich overnight. He didn't save it. Dressrosa is an important guard against all forces around the world. It must be made into a strong war barrier. Be sure that even the 4 emperors are overwhelmed with an army. You can also wipe them out in one fell swoop. And the explosive troops have exploded from more than 1 million to 5 million people in the past few days. The number has multiplied, and it continues to increase. Strength is always king. Only the base is large enough. The probability of giving birth to powerful warriors is also high. Sure enough, a few days later, the Allies managed to produce the first super soldiers who broke 3 stars. Ren named it a 4-star soldier. And people look at the streets, there are more and more soldiers in the forest. I couldn't help but tremble more and more. Inside a tavern, the drinkers were talking. It's terrible. You don't know that when I went hunting yesterday, the forest I usually went to, there were dense soldiers standing motionless. My God. As far as the eye can see, the whole mountain forest, the whole mountain range is full of people. Quote, it seems that Lord Ren did not use his full strength to wage war against Mingo. With so many soldiers, how did he hide before? How to solve the logistics? Do they have other countries backing it? Quote, it's not surprising that so many soldiers are equipped with weapons, if they don't have a strong country as a logistical support, who believes it. There are more and more incomprehensible military buildings on the island. Fortunately, Lord Ren is still good to us. After the successful establishment of that power station yesterday, now the entire island has access to electricity. Quote, Lord Ren is definitely a fruit ability. I saw that where there were no buildings, there were many more buildings overnight. I think Lord Ren is more like a god. Saved us from the tyranny of Doflamingo, without whom I would still be a toy. Now that the Allies are recruiting talented people, I have decided to sign up for the Allies. Quote, add me, with such a strong strength, follow Lord Ren, you will definitely be able to get ahead. What happened here must be reported to the head as soon as possible. This kind of force is no joke. I estimate there may be more than 1 million soldiers. In the middle of nowhere, there are pirates of some strength whispering. Such a dangerous guy, haven't you seen it in the warrant? Are those people at the world government and marine headquarters all breaking? Another pirate captain couldn't help but say. Such an army does not belong to the world government, and acts so arbitrarily. Take 7 warlords of the sea. As a result, so far, Marine headquarters has not made any moves. Isn't this waste? Usually Marine's bounty order to them is very positive. The port was unblocked at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and we took the opportunity to go out. Such rapid development has also brought some problems. Lord Wren, the strength has exceeded 5.5 million, and staying in Dressrosa is a bit crowded. Tanya came to report. First take down a few nearby islands, and it is also just time to train the troops, and there is also a fierce beast island nearby, which is suitable for Tibetan soldiers. You do it. Quote. Yes, Lord Wren, through our genetic research on some superhumans, we have developed stronger super soldiers. If you add beastly genes, their individual combat power can fight against pirates with a bounty of about 8 million to 20 million Bailey. Good, good, good. Wren said 3 good words in a row. He constantly explodes troops. In addition to having a large force base, he can manipulate more weapons. The other is to build your own army of powerhouses. Although it is the same after each soldier is made. But the people and environments they come into contact with are different, which can make their individual thinking more active. From this was born some genius to become more powerful. Wren also collected the hockey cultivation method. Distributed to all GIs. I hope they can master this kind of power. At New World, hockey's cultivation method is not rare. Among the assets left by Brother Ming, there is this cultivation method. But to cultivate, you have to rely on talent. This kind of soldier, temporarily positioning 4 stars, improving their treatment, and letting them contact more things, the talent of these soldiers should be the strongest in this batch. How many such soldiers are there at the moment? Quote. There are currently 1,200 people, but the number is increasing every day. Take this team out alone, let Cyrus be the chief instructor, and let the people of the Gene Center heal his leg for me. Wren pondered for a moment and then made arrangements. Cyrus was the legendary gladiator of Dressrosa, undefeated in 3,000 battles. Although only 1 foot, but he is still a strong man who can bring down the top cadre Diamante. The pirates with a bounty of 300 or 400 million Bailey are usually not his opponents. If his leg is restored, it will be combined with a genetic bestialization type of potion. Stimulate his potential. Strength is expected to go further. With such strength, it is enough to serve as the teaching palace of this 4-star team in the early stage. As for whether he will refuse. Inexistent. Yesterday, Rebecca was announced as the new king of Dressrosa. And Wren became king of Dressrosa, also known as the protector of the Ming king. The daughter is the king, they are already completely tied to the same ship. Cyrus had to use it for himself. Now the allies are supported by Wren massive soul ore in the new environment of New World. We are absorbing relevant knowledge and resources, and we are developing rapidly. It won't be long before Wren believes the whole world will be shocked by them. Lord Wren, there's more good news. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.